to work on this beautiful day, and
let's go. Today, I'm trying to ride with you.
Ricky, I'd appreciate it if you paid attention during this safety meeting. The things I'm about to tell you could save your life.
Why are you always picking on me? Everybody else here fucking around, not paying attention to you, but you gonna single me out again. Look, H2S, we've had 6 safety meetings on H2S gas in the last 2 months. The shit has not changed the last 6 times. It was just as dangerous then as it is now. Now, I want you to tell me something interesting, and maybe I'll pay attention.
Something interesting? You want to know something interesting? There is 7 trillion nerves in the human body, and you go on every single last one of mine. Okay, if you think you can do an H2S safety meeting better than I can, here's this fucking clipboard. Go ahead.
No problem, baby. Give me that fucking clipboard. Alright. You have 3 pages of notes for this safety meeting. How long are we gonna be here? I'm not following it. Alright, guys. I'm gonna keep this short and simple. If you hear the H2S alarm around the building, look at the flag.
As urban centre, it's not really a question of intangibles with regards.
And if somebody is running
There were a
beside you
lot
and
of
they fall
tribes
down,
and a lot
they're
of
already
travellers.
dead. Keep fucking running. Don't worry about them. Secondly, if your personal H2S alarm goes off before you have a heart attack, make sure the battery is not low. And that's all there is to it. Does anybody have any questions?
No questions for me. That pretty much sums it up. I know what to do.
No questions from me either. Hell, I got my nitro pill in my pocket, baby. Any of those alarms go off, I know I'm having a heart attack. I'm prepared.
All right. Seems like everybody's on the same page and we all know what to do. Any questions, Mr. Safety Man?
That's how it's gonna be, guys. We're just talking. You know what? No, I ain't got no questions. Y'all, if y'all don't want to respect the safety meeting, y'all go ahead, go back to work. We ain't having no more safety meetings this week. Y'all done made it clear that y'all don't care. So I'll be fine here. Y'all going back to work. All right? I'll tell you what. I'm becoming about as useless as a master electrician on a fucking job site. This is getting ridiculous. Guys, now that we're all together, I want to go ahead and start by saying I'm glad we're all here today at work on this time for the Christmas bonuses, boys. Checks are on the counter.
I'm sure they won't even notice that I was late today. I mean, who the...
Hello, Rick.
Here we go again. Look, first off, it's Ricky. Okay, let's get that shit straight right now. Secondly, I can explain why I was late. Not that I care if I lose this job, but I do have a realistic explanation as to why I was late today.
I don't want to hear your excuses, okay? No. Hold on now. I want to hear this fucking excuse. You've been late for 7 days in a row. Yesterday, you told me a gorilla ran into the woods and you pulled over on the highway to get out there and catch it while you were on the phone with Game and Fish. What happened today? Did you meet E.T. in the gas station bathroom? He take you to his fucking home planet and you just got back a couple minutes ago? Let's hear it.
I seen that gorilla. Okay, don't you say I didn't see no gorilla, because I seen that motherfucker. But today, let's stay on topic here. Today I was late, but I wasn't really late. See, what happened was I was coming to work on time, doing the speed limit. Probably would have been 15 minutes early. But then I seen that new state trooper. You know, that woman they just hired. So she already had somebody else pulled over. So I about swerved off the road when I seen her. Because I'll tell you what, she in the wrong line of work. Okay? She should have been a heavy equipment operator carrying a dump truck around like that, my boy.
So what you're saying is she's hot. So you think she's hot?
Hot? So let me tell you, she is hotter than a tablespoon in a trap house on payday. Okay, so naturally, I had to hit that Yui about 2 miles up, come back by her doing about 37 over the speed limit, so I made sure she pulled me over.
Why would you do that? What's wrong with you? I know for a fact that your license is suspended. You're not even supposed to be driving. Why would you want to get pulled over? I mean, you're not actually entertaining this stupidity, are you? You be quiet. I'm trying to listen to this story, okay? I've seen her at the gas station once or twice. You think she's still going to be there this evening when I come back off work? I think I got a headlight out. But either way, finish your story, okay? I'm invested now.
Thank you. Please stop interrupting. I'm trying to tell a story here. So anyways, I pass her. Blue lights. She whips that bitch nasty, boy. She know how to drive. Gets up to the window and was like, "Sir, do you know how fast you were going?"
All right, okay, 37 over. You should have been in jail. What happened and how did you get here after that? Let me hear it.
When she leaned in when they said that, I was like, I had to hit with that grown foe. I was like, "Baby girl, you know true love ain't got no speed limit out here. I had to get back to you as fast as I could." And then that bitch impounded my car. And I had to walk the fucking rest of the way here. So that's why I'm late. And y'all better be glad it's a shorter distance from there to this fucking place than it is from there to my house. Because I almost didn't come. Y'all just better be glad I'm here, honestly.
Could have done a little bit something different. I mean,
Whoa. What are you doing right now?
dude, what do you think I invited you here for? It's Thirsty Thursdays, man.
I know what day it is.
Thanks for coming to hang out.
You can't just start. You just can't barrel off into it. You gotta start Thirsty Thursdays with a toast or something.
Toast. I think I got some white bread, maybe some wheat bread. I think we got that new cinnamon swirl bread. You want some of that? I got a lot of different toast.
What? No, I'm not talking about bread, dumbass. Here, let me show you what I mean. Today, on Thirsty Thursdays, we start with a toast, gentlemen. If the ocean were beer and I were a duck, I would swim to the bottom and drink my way up. But the ocean is not beer, and I am not a duck. So let's drink this beer and get fucked up.
You know what? That's actually pretty good. I like that. We'll drink to that.
No. Hold on now, boys. Hold on. I didn't like that one. So let me go ahead and give you one. I don't drink to your health, and I don't drink to your wealth. Today we drink to your luck. Because everybody on the Titanic was healthy and wealthy. But only a few were lucky. Bottoms up, boys.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that was a little dark, but all right.
Oh, don't drink that shit. No, that's not a good toast to drink on. Okay. Here's one that's kind of more fitting of the situation. To the lovers who have us, to the losers who lost us, and to the lucky bastards who are yet to meet us. Cheers, boys.
All right, okay, that's what I'm talking about.
No. One more from my side of the shop. And then we'll drink one. All right, so here we go.
No more from either of you. Okay, and I invited you over here to have a wonderful evening on Thirsty Thursday. And all y'all been doing is stopping me from drinking and talking. Okay? So let's just all be quiet. Keep to ourselves for the next 3 cans. And then we'll circle back and y'all can do this dumb shit. But, okay, I need a minute.
Okay, fuck. I mean, what a buzzkill. Shit.
That's what I'm thinking. Shit, power, have your minute alone. We'll be outside by the fire when you get out of your feelings. Fucking children these days.
You are as just as you are wise. Let's make it so.
This is fantastic.
Alright, fellas, I'm back with lunch. Roscoe, you said that you had wanted the sirloin from Outback with the shrimp, right?
You damn right. Did you get my prune juice I wanted too?
Yes, I got your prune juice that you wanted, okay? Back passenger side, go fucking grab it. Safety man, you wanted dollar menu. 2 spicy McChickens, large fry, and a sweet tea with extra barbecue sauce. Yeah?
Yep, that's right. Dollar menu for me, boy. You gotta pinch them pennies so we got something to retire on.
Yeah, okay, pinching pennies, yeah. Because it has nothing to do with the alimony. Right. Okay, Pablo, your chilaquiles are in
Your
the front
people see
passenger
it
floorboard.
as a place of safety
Boss man,
and a
here you go.
symbol of power. Only your friends know
Did you-
of the extensive wine cellar.
This is just an avocado. No. Okay, so he got steak and shrimp. He got McDonald's. Pablo got chilaquiles. Why did everybody else get all this shit and I get an avocado?
I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little confused as to why you're confused about this. All right? Let me try and dumb this down for you. Hey, Roscoe, when I said, "What do you want for lunch?" what did you tell me?
Hello. To be exact, I asked for steak, a side of shrimp, some asparagus, and half a gallon of prune juice, and, well, it looks to be exactly what I got.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me you got exactly what you told me to get you? And safety man, didn't you say that you wanted 2 spicy McChickens, a large fry, extra barbecue sauce, and a sweet tea from the dollar menu?
I mean, yeah, that's
You have added
exactly
an
what I
independent
got.
people to your empire.
because that's exactly what I
Will
asked
the
for.
whole be greater than the sum of
What
the
did you ask him for?
Yeah. What did you ask him for? As a matter of fact, let's have a little flashback. When I walked up to you and said, "Boss man, it's my day to get lunch. I'm writing everybody's order down. What you wanting today?"
Man, I'm on the phone right now. Do you not have eyes, man? Come on, I'm fucking busy. Just get me something. I don't care what you get me. I'm on the phone. No, man. That's just some dumbass that works here.
Okay. Yep, I know what you're getting for lunch. Flashback over. So we're not remembering that little altercation this morning?
Yeah, no, I mean it's a little fuzzy. But I'm just gonna take your word for it, and I'm just gonna enjoy my avocado. I think there's some bread and a toaster in the break room. Thanks for the avocado.
I'm telling you, Chip. Look, he swears up and down that I'm not prepared for anything ever. That I'm the most unprepared, blah, blah, blah. But look at this. Respirators, life straws, glow sticks, road flares, ropes. I got straps. I am a prepared individual, and he won't recognize that. I'm just a little confused as to how an M-wrap with bulletproof glass is necessary at any point in any of this. I mean,
It's not necessary. And nothing about it necessary. This is if I need it, I got it. But there is one downfall to this. I can't go through the drive-through.
I mean, the man's worried about a drive-through.
Well, what if I need a milkshake? Or
I mean, you go out the turret, I guess. I don't know.
well, that's a lot of work for a milkshake.
I got nothing.
Now, I tell you what, you ain't got shit on him. Okay, I'm pretty sure these are heated seats in the back. You don't even have heated seats in the back. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a sunroof, but I mean, it's pretty much a sunroof.
I work with these guys all the time. Outlaw boys. This is Chip Pierce right here. We can't find Nacho. He's never at work on a Friday. He's always hiding.
Yeah.
But the man has an M-wrap sitting in his back parking lot right now because I told him, I was like, hey, if you got anything cool, let's make a video with it or something like this. The man, it's a fucking M-wrap.
You tried to trump me.
I was expecting him to bring a fucking, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting this. It has a turret. It has strobes. I mean, it's bulletproof glass. I mean, look at
Just
this.
imagine. Once you
It's
discover
solid as shit,
writing,
like-
you can literally throw the book at them.
I mean, what the fuck are we supposed to record next week? I mean, there's no topping this.
I think I can get a Black Hawk.
Jesus Christ.
All right, guys. Everybody asked me for t-shirts, hoodies. All righty, gentlemen. Glad we all made it today. As everybody here knows already, today is the weld test for the optional overtime through Christmas and the extra 2 PTO off days. We will be doing 2G,
what's up, y'all?
5G,
Thanks for
and
joining.
6G. Anyone is welcome to test. Highest overall score will win the competition.
We are listening to Ricky and the Boss. It's a TikTok channel that I found that I've fallen in love with. This shit's fucking hilarious to me. I don't work in construction, but I understand the attitudes of all these motherfuckers.
Has anybody any questions, comments before we get started?
I ain't got no question about it.
I'd appreciate it if you drop a follow if you enjoy the content. If you're just up lurking Christmas morning, waiting for everybody to get up, just go ahead and smash that follow button for me. I'd really appreciate it.
We got a quick statement for all our other contestants here. Fellas, I got a fresh lap co-FR on, a lot of starch in this bad boy. If y'all just want to go ahead and bow out now and save yourself the embarrassment of getting beat by me, just do it now, and let's not waste time welding rods, anything like that. Any takers? Roscoe?
Don't you come at me, son, Art. I got welding hoods, older than you are. I got more experience in my left hand than you ever gonna have in your
In
whole
my
life.
left hand.
As far as your fancy little shirt. If it ain't a blue jean pearl snap, a classic, you ain't got shit. You better do something before I hurt his feelings.
He's right. Now let's
Most
cut this
problems
trash talk out. We got a
eventually
couple more
yield
minutes to
to
wait
the
here
onslaught
before our
of
last
migrants.
contestant gets here, and then we'll let the Welds do the talking. Okay, so let's just go ahead and.
Last contestant? What are you talking about? We're all here except,
Hey, sorry, fellas. Took me a little while to get the old pearl snap out. So cute shirt, Ricky. So everybody else here ready to take this ass whooping now, or y'all just watching?
hell no. I want him disqualified. This shit ain't fair. He's the boss man. He can't be competing against everybody else. This don't make no sense at all. Alright? He taught every single person here how to weld except for Roscoe. And what are you wearing? Knox FR? What kind of shit is that?
Y'all better watch yourself. Okay, don't diss my Knox FR, because it's about to knock your bitch ass out this competition. Let's go ahead and get this started. We ain't got all day. We got work to do after this.
That's what I'm talking about. It's gonna be a good little competition here. Hey, Ricky, better go ahead and grab a mop before you come over here.
A mop? Why would I possibly need a mop?
Because you're gonna need something to wipe them tears up with, son. I'm about to put you in your place.
Look, man, I get that you think you saw that, but there's no way that you actually saw that.
I saw an electrician with a broom in his hand sweeping up after himself. I can't make it up. I mean, I saw it.
I understand that you think you saw an electrician cleaning in his area, but that's not actually possible because they don't do that. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? They don't do that.
He was cleaning, man. I'm telling- Hey, Roscoe, get over here.
Can I not just enjoy my break in peace? What do you want?
So listen, I'm trying to tell him that I saw an electrician cleaning up his area. I'm sure in all your years you've seen some pretty crazy stuff too. I mean, what's the craziest thing you've seen?
Oh, yes, I've seen some crazy shit. About a couple years back, I went to the bar with 3 welders, fresh off the pipeline. And I shit you not one of those welders told anybody that they were a welder, and not one single one of them had a pearl snap on. Craziest shit I ever seen in my life.
You don't sit there and tell me 3 welders went into a bar and didn't tell not one person they were a welder? Roscoe, I'm trying to get him to believe me. You come over here spitting these fucking lies!
I'll be honest with you boys right now. Like, I could have believed the whole electrician sweeping thing, maybe. Or maybe moved the broom because he wanted to sit down right there. But for 3 welders to go into a bar and not tell anybody that they're a welder, and not one single one of them had a pearl snap on, I ain't never gonna believe that. That's a lie. That's all there is to it. Hey, pipe fitter just let me know there's a good sized gap on that last fit. You gonna be able to weld it?
Not gonna be able to... What kind of question is that? Son, I could fill the gap
I'm not
in
sure
the
what the
ozone
proper
layer if they paid for
adjective
diem.
is,
Okay?
but it appears
Never
that
doubt
you
me
have
again.
been out
Not
managing.
doubting. I was just gonna make sure that you could fill the gap and there'd be no issues.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that sounds a lot like doubt. And I know what I'm doing with my rod. Okay, I've got like 18 baby mamas. Okay, I know how to fill a gap.
18, baby. That has nothing to do with welding. Your baby mamas and welding have nothing in common.
See, that's where you got it all wrong. See, both of those things require full penetration or nobody's happy.
Hey, man, I just want to let you know they're going to hydro that weld you're about to make. So you make damn sure it's a good one, all right? You better make sure that motherfucker ties in good.
Do I detect the hint of doubt in your tone right now? Let me tell you like this, son. You can lipo, hydro, fuck, you can put a hippo on that motherfucker. Okay, I'm a welder. I know what I'm doing.
You know what, man? You're too overconfident right now, okay? Take it down a notch. All y'all welders think your shit don't stink, okay? You keep acting like this, and I'm going to let the new guy weld it. He just got out of welding school, so I know he's certified.
Overconfident? That ain't never been a bad thing. Okay, it's like this. I could fill the gap in the ozone layer if they paid per diem. Okay? And you know what? If you let the new guy weld it, I got something in my truck, and I'll be ready for it.
Well, if you're going to keep acting like that, I'm going to have the new guy weld it.
That's fine with me. I got something in my truck. I'm gonna go grab it, and you come get me when you're ready to go check out the hydro.
Come on, Ricky, let's go over there. He's got it tied in, baby. Let's go check this hydro out. What is that in your hands?
I'm ready, baby. This thing right here, this is my fucking inflatable inner tube. Okay, so while you're swimming back to the truck after this hydro, I'm gonna calmly float back.
Alrighty, gentlemen, glad we all made it today. As everybody
Hey,
knows
y'all.
already, today is the...
Yeah, y'all, thanks for jumping in. Right now we're just playing some Humankind. I'm watching Ricky and the Boss. Just enjoying my morning before everybody gets up. If you enjoy lurking, if you enjoy the content, just please go ahead and smash that follow button. I'd appreciate it.
The weld test for the optional overtime through Christmas and the extra 2 PTO off days. We will be doing 2G, 5G, and 6G. Anyone is welcome to test. Highest overall score will win the competition. Has anybody any questions, comments before we get started?
I ain't got no question. I do got a quick statement for all our other contestants here. Fellas, I got a fresh lap co-FR on, a lot of starch in this bad boy. If y'all just want to go ahead and bow out now and save yourself the embarrassment of getting beat by me, just do it now, and let's not waste time, welding rods, anything like that. Any takers? Roscoe?
Don't you come at me, son. I got welding hoods older than you are. I got more experience in my left hand than you ever gonna have in your whole life. And as far as your fancy little shirt, if it ain't a blue jean pearl snap, a classic,
Blue jean
you
pearl
ain't got
snap.
shit. You better do something before I hurt his feelings.
He's right. Now let's cut this trash talk out. We got a couple more minutes to wait here before our last contestant gets here, and then we'll let the welds do the talking. Okay, so let's just go ahead and...
Last contestant?
You have built a first
What are you talking
harbour
about? We're
to
all
construct
here
and launch the
except,
vessels of the Empire. Time to stock up on champagne
Hey,
bottles.
sorry, fellas. Took me a little while to get the old pearl snap out. So, cute shirt, Ricky. So, everybody else here ready to take this ass whooping now, or y'all just watching?
Hell no. I want him disqualified. This shit ain't fair. He's the boss man. He can't be competing against everybody else. This don't make no sense at all. Alright? He taught every single person here how to weld except for Roscoe. And what are you wearing? Knox FR? What kind of shit is that?
Now, better watch yourself. Okay, don't diss my Knox FR, because it's about to knock your bitch ass out this competition. Let's go ahead and get this started. We ain't got all day. We got work to do after this.
That's what I'm talking about. It's gonna be a good little competition here. Hey, Ricky, you better go ahead and grab a mop before you come over here.
A mop? Why would I possibly need a mop?
Cause you're gonna need something to wipe them tears up with, son. I'm about to put you in your place.
All right, fellas, thanks for meeting me here by the bridge. So there is some local wildlife in the area that we need to address before we really get started on the job. I've asked Matt Wright, a professional in this field, to come out here and show us what we're kind of dealing with. Anybody got any questions before we start?
I got a question. Can we speed this up a little bit? Okay, look, I got a lot of bills, paid child support coming out. We need to go ahead and get out there and make some money. I ain't got all day. I'll box an armadillo or slap a raccoon in the mouth if I got to. I ain't scared.
We'll be done soon and we'll get to work. Just, Matt, if you want to go ahead and show them what we're dealing with.
Yo, what the fuck? Whoa. Yeah, no, fuck that. Fuck that every day of the week.
Oh, hell no. Fuck this job. I quit. I'm leaving. I'm loading my shit in 10 minutes.
Yup.
I'm gone. I ain't working with this over here.
Peace
okay,
out.
I came out here to do a job and to get paid for it. Not come out here and fight dinosaurs. All right, I'm not squaring up with Godzilla's third cousin over there. And I sure as hell didn't apply to be a lifeguard at Lake Placid. Okay, this shit's ridiculous. I'm not working here.
Don't worry, it's okay. We've got precautions set, appropriate measures in the works. Everything's going to be fine. Okay, you don't have to worry about anything when you come to work. We've taken the steps that we needed to take to make sure this was a safe work environment.
Steps and precautions? What are you talking about? Look, for anybody that's gonna stay here and work with this dinosaur, let me tell you about these steps and precautions, okay? The steps, he's referring to fucking big ones, okay? You see that thing coming, you take fucking big steps away from it. Okay, and the precautions? You need to fucking call your lawyer right now and make sure your will and funeral arrangements is up to date. Because if you don't take them big fucking steps, that lizard's gonna get your ass. And I'm not gonna be here to watch it. So somebody come load my box. Because I got somewhere else to be.
All right, fellas, bringing in time for the monthly Working in the Weather Safety Meeting. Whew, it just gives me chills thinking about it. Does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns before we start this?
I got one right here. How exactly are we supposed to prepare for the weather on a job site in the southern U.S.? Okay, the high for today is 76 with a 20% chance of snow. So I'm not real sure how the fuck we're supposed to prepare for that.
That's actually a really good question. So weather is a wee bit sporadic in the southern U.S. about this time of year. I know when you got up out of bed this morning headed to work, it was 17 degrees. And then when you drove 30 minutes to work, it was 64 when you got here. I understand that confusion. I do. But we're just going to have to work around that, and we're going to have to make it work.
Okay, we're gonna make it work. So let me process this. When I show up to work in the morning, I may need thermals on, a hoodie, and a jacket. But by lunch, if I don't take all that off, I may or may not get heat stroke. But when I get off work, when the sun starts going down, if I haven't put my thermals and jackets back on...
Wisdom, I'm not thinking of grains
frostbite
or
may
brawn,
be a
but of
potential.
corn, chocolate, and chili.
That's exactly
The
right,
Aztecs
actually.
are a
That is a
culture that
great
makes my
explanation
stomach
of what we need to do. Guys, did everybody else hear that? That's a good one right there. Also, another quick tip, hot hands and ear protection for everyone working outside. Also, to our supervisors and managers present, please, gentlemen, keep your heaters set under 71 degrees. And remember, if you let one of your helpers sit in the truck, you have to let all of your helpers sit in the truck. Now let's go have a great work day and stay warm until it's hot.
Have you been reading these comments, man? Everybody's saying blue-collar workers don't make no money, they're always broke, and that we should just stop and go back to school and get a real job.
Ricky, come here.
What do you want? Just come to me. It's only like 6 steps. Come on, man.
Whatever, look. Roscoe's had a couple drinks, and you know how he gets when he drinks a little bit too much. I'm not trying to have his old ass start crying again, and give me that shit. Stop drinking out of the bottle. You're not a Neanderthal. Get a cup like everybody else. I'm gonna go inside and get the steaks. Do not bring up any sad shit with Roscoe, okay? Just keep him happy, okay?
Man, you have no faith in me. Okay, look, it's like this. Even though Roscoe is a complete and total asshole to me every single day of the week, I would never intentionally try and make him cry. Okay? It's like this. I'm gonna sit out here and watch him and make sure he has a great time. You go inside and don't worry about anything that's going on out here. Grab the steaks, put them on the grill, and I'll handle Roscoe. Don't worry about it.
Whatever. Look, I'm not trusting shit you say. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Just do me a favor, and for the next 10 minutes, try not to be yourself. Okay? Just leave him alone. All right?
Hey, whatever. Just go. Just walk out the door. Go. I'll be fine here. And here we go.
Swing low, sweet chariot. Do what?
I said, weren't you telling me about the love of your life that you lost back in 1932 a couple minutes ago?
Well, I don't think I was, but you talking about 1932? You must be referring to Clarice. Damn, she was a flapper. Stole my heart. Let me tell you about her.
Yes, Clarice, that's exactly who I was referring to. Tell me everything. What, was it a heartbreaking story?
Oh, absolutely gut-wrenching, son.
My goodness. Spare. No detail. And do not be afraid to cry, okay?
Well,
We're
it all
all
started at the
friends.
diner, I suppose.
All right, fellas, I got the steaks on the grill,
And that's when the syphilis took her. Worst 6 months of my life. I didn't even get to try it out.
Hold on, fellas, hold on. I read the community guidelines again. We can't do the Christmas skit we were gonna do.
What the hell do you mean we can't do the Christmas skit? Roscoe, are you hearing this shit?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't want to do this in the first place. Okay? The hat don't fit me. I wasn't feeling it. I'm glad we ain't gonna do it.
Well, my hat don't fit either, but you don't see me complaining, okay? It's for the children. Come over here. Look, I don't understand why we're not doing it. What the hell am I supposed to do with these reindeer? I got 3 hoes on the way. Every one of Santa's hoes, ho, ho, and ho. I got all 3 of them on the way right now. What am I supposed to tell them?
What are you talking about? Ho, ho, ho is a saying. No, it's not 3 hoes. What's wrong with you?
And what do you mean 12 reindeer?
Why
Did you?
should individual wealth and political connections determine
Where the
the
fuck
status
did you
of
get
something
12
as timeless
reindeer
as
at?
the land?
We live in South Arkansas.
Don't worry about where I got the reindeer, okay? I know people. I got connections. Honestly, the reindeer was the easiest thing I've gotten in the last month. Okay? Okay, you and Ebenezer Scrooge over here might want to ruin the Christmas season for everybody else. But I'm doing a Christmas skit. With or without ya.
Okay, man. We're gonna figure something out. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna do it right so it doesn't get taken down. But right now, we got about 17 minutes till dark, okay? And if those fucking reindeer, those 12 and 14 point massive reindeer are still standing in this yard at dark 30, every redneck with a spotlight's gonna be at my fucking house. So we need to figure something out right now. Christmas season is upon us. It's here. It's this month. We can't push it.
If y'all want me to watch something else, suggestions in chat. You know, I'll play anything. I don't really care right now. I just like to have something playing while I'm playing games instead of listening to the same old music. So if y'all got any suggestions, hit me up.
Away any longer. Let me tell you why I have a love-hate relationship with this holiday. I love the lights. I love the decorations. I love the smell of scented pine that everybody all of a sudden has in their house. I love the family gathering, the food, it's all great. But buying presents for people I don't even associate with but twice a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that are still considered my family. It's the crazy part is it's not the money, it's what the fuck am I supposed to get Aunt What's-Her-Name that I've had a conversation with 8 times since I turned 12?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. A pack of Newports? I don't know what she likes. I don't know. But not everybody is difficult to shop for in this time of year, okay? So like my dad or my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, somebody like that, they would openly send me the exact SKU number to the item that they wanted at the exact place they wanted it.
That's what I do. 100%.
That's what I'm looking for. Okay, my wife's like, your gift has to come from the heart.
No.
Now, I want my gift to come from my photos and my messages because they told me exactly what they wanted. Then they're happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. You get what you want. I didn't have to fucking do all the hard work and legwork and get you something you didn't like. Because I'll tell you right now, whenever I get somebody something, I put the receipt in the bag with it. I want them to know exactly how much I spent on it and exactly where they can return it because I know it's probably not what they want. Merry Christmas, folks. It's coming. Stay strong. About time you show up. I didn't know if he's going to take a break today or not. Where you been at?
Well, believe it or not, some of us actually have to work here, so that's what I was doing. Look, I'm not even gonna lie, that was a lie. I don't work here either, but I was in the Porta-John on the phone. That old girl I've been seeing, she done left me again. I'm single again.
Damn, man, you know I hate to hear that. And honestly, I'd ask why she left you, but I can think of at least 12 reasons right now, so I'm just not even gonna dig into it.
Don't you come at me with no 12 reasons, okay? First off, both of y'all are married, so you don't know what it's like to be single anymore. Okay, you both go home after work to a hot-cooked meal, fresh folded laundry, you crawl in bed and get it whenever you want. You don't know what it's like to be single anymore.
Let me get this straight. You think, since we're married, we get a hot-cooked meal every night, fresh folded laundry, and just... Are you hearing this?
Yeah, I'm hearing it, but listen to me, son. Listen to me right now. Okay, I worked 84 hours last week, and when I got home last night, she was mad at me because I ain't done shit at the house all week. Okay, you don't know what married life is like. Tell him something.
Okay, yeah, look, let me give you a rundown on what I did yesterday on my day off. Okay, first, went ahead and swept the whole entire house, followed by mopping the whole entire house, and when I put the dishes up, I made sure that she heard me. And then we're not even going to talk about the 6 loads of laundry that I did.
Damn. You did all that just to get some?
What? No, that doesn't get you anything. Okay, that just keeps the peace, if you're lucky.
Shit. Sounds terrible. Why would anybody want to do that?
No, man, you're getting the wrong idea, okay? There's a lot of positive things, okay? No more first dates, ever. You have someone always to watch TV with you and be completely silent with. You're never actually alone ever again. It's wonderful. Last but not least, my wedding ring, it opens beer bottles. Huge fucking plus. Roscoe, is there anything you can think of that's positives?
Oh, yeah, my 2 major ones. Number 1, taxes. You know how much more money I get because I'm married to her? Extreme amount. Number 2, my favorite one, life insurance policy. Okay, I have a massive life insurance policy on my wife. We're just waiting to see who's gonna die first, because one of us is gonna be fucking rich. It's gonna be great. Fuck, I hope I win.
My girlfriend and I had the same conversation.
Honestly, both of you. When I find me a wife and we get married, we're never gonna fight. We're always gonna help each other out all the time. We're gonna split everything 50-50. We're not gonna be like y'all.
Never gonna fight.
So my wife's like 5 foot tall, 100 pounds maybe. And she is the scariest person in my life, okay? She sent me outside like 45 minutes ago before it started getting dark to go outside and get something. And she was like, go outside and grab that real quick. And as soon as I walked out the door, I forgot what the fuck she said. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be out here grabbing. All I know is if I go back in that house and I don't have whatever she told me to grab, she is going to jump on my ass.
Like it's Spider-Man.
Okay, and I'm 6'2", 300 pounds, you know. I should be able to handle myself, but I can't. She just whoops my ass like a fucking MMA fighter. I'm not going back in there till I figure out what I forgot out here. I mean, I just been walking around spreading ant killer and spraying grass killer, hoping to God she walks outside and sees me being productive and says, well, just grab such and such whenever you come back in. If she don't come soon, I'm going to start mowing the fucking yard. I mean, I got a flashlight in the truck. I don't know what else to do. Wish me luck. Man, I couldn't eat another bite if I fucking tried, man. I'm so full. We done ate like 3 plates apiece.
Boy, you ain't lying. I ain't feeling too good right now. That green bean casserole got me. Okay, I think I ate 17 deviled eggs. That's not healthy.
Old lady just had the banana pudding out, boys. Y'all go on ahead, come get you some.
Banana pudding. Stop running. There's enough for everybody.
Just a quick recap, guys. We won't be taking any more off-time requests for the rest of the year through January 3rd. And yes, we will be working next Thursday on Thanksgiving because it does fall during the week. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns before we leave today?
Yeah, quick question, real quick, like. So I'm kind of confused by that. I've never actually requested off time. It's always just been a notice of absence. Because when I tell you I want off those days, it's not me asking. It's more like, hey, I'm not gonna be here these days. Good luck, homies. Figure that shit out. So what am I supposed to do for next week? 'Cause I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah, no, that's not actually how this works. So since you work for this company, we actually tell you when you can and cannot take off. I don't know how things have been working for you so far, but if you're not here on Thanksgiving Day for your shift, you will be written up and a point will go on your record. But don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys. The people that do show up and work their Thanksgiving shift will get a $20 gift card to Target. How's that sound?
So let me get this straight. Let me weigh my options here. Option A, don't come to work, take a write-up, point on my record, but I get to spend quality family time with all of my relatives this year because we didn't get to do anything last year because of COVID. Option B, come to work and stare at you for 12 hours and leave with a $20 Target gift card. I live 45 minutes from Target. I don't go there.
Well, if it makes you happier, I'm not actually going to be here on Thanksgiving Day because mostly all of management is going to be off for the holiday. So you won't have to see me at all that day.
And you know, honestly, maybe option B better that you aren't going to be here. But I'm still leaning towards option A because honestly, we've been hiring for like 3.5 months and nobody wants to come to work. I mean, what are you going to do, fire me? We both know you're not going to do that.
You know, it's really inconvenient that all these companies around here are starting to tell their employees that they're not accepting any more off-time requests, and well, they're not going to be able to take off even if they have PTO or sick days or anything like that. Well, it's going to be real fucking inconvenient when everybody all of a sudden has COVID symptoms and has to take 3 to 4 days off to really make sure that their health is where it needs to be because they don't want to get anybody else sick. You know, they can't do that. It's going to be real inconvenient. That's all I'm going to say. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving holiday. I'm feeling a cough coming on.
Hey, you called the 411 dig number, right?
Yeah, of course I called the 411 dig number. It's It's like literally one of the only things that I actually have to do myself. So, is there something wrong?
Well, you might want to call them motherfuckers back and tell them they missed. Because, there's a lot of stuff down there, really.
What do you mean there's a lot of stuff down there? Okay, those guys are trained professionals.
Honey badgers are the most disrespectful force in nature, and that's putting them over orcas. Because at least when an orca shot puts a seal, you can argue it's just testing a new hunting strategy. But honey badgers will look for negativity in situations where they have nothing to gain. Why would a honey badger test an oryx 10 times its size, get launched only to immediately do it again? Because honey badgers come into the world deciding they don't want peace, they want problems. They don't want compromise, they seek conflict. If orcas are homicidal sea Oreos, then honey badgers are double stuffed with audacity. If I ever make a list of the top 5 animals with black Air Force energy, honey badgers would be a first ballot choice. But like any kid that acts out in school, to really understand just what makes a honey badger such a one-man hate campaign, you gotta look at its family. When you talk about mammalian carnivores, you can really simplify it into 2 classes, Team Cat and Team Dog. Team Cat would be feliform, which translates to cat-like carnivores, which would obviously include wild cats, but also cats that aren't really cats like hyenas, mongooses like the meerkat, and a bunch of other animals you've probably never heard of. On the other side is Caniformia, which are the dog-like carnivores. This includes dogs, wild, unhinged dogs, dogs on steroids, smaller but more street-smart dogs, and a special group of water dogs that decided they had enough of the nonsense and disrespect of the dirt world and were going to take their chances out in the ocean. Results have been varied. But you also have another family known as the Mustelidae squad, and they were kind of in a weird spot. They weren't the biggest, definitely weren't the fastest, not the smartest, and for the most part they're solitary, meaning they rarely have a numbers advantage. So their only real option was to overcompensate the way anyone that overmatched would, with violence and borderline crackhead courage. If mustelids like honey badgers ran in groups, they probably wouldn't have the personality of a power tool to survive.
I'm coming.
Because gang violence may be unethical, but in the wild, it's a way of life. It's the reason African wild dogs are one of the most efficient groups at canceling life subscriptions. Because team play is high-key underrated. Ants are probably the best used social insects in the game, and it's almost scary how well they work together. Led by a queen who can almost check in at the same weight class as a mouse, ant society is built on a hierarchy where everyone has a job. Female ants are workers who can have tasks such as cleaning the eggs and feeding the larvae. Queen ant's job is to supply the ant census with new bodies by constantly spawning eggs, and some species can spit out over 800 in one day. Male ants have one job, and it's to supply the queen with baby batter and then exit the census once they fulfill that purpose. They have no rights, no free will, they're basically walking ejac packets. And if you ever wanted to know just what ant society is like, the Ants Underground Kingdom is a simulation strategy game with millions of players already online. You can hatch and develop your own ant army, including rare ones like the banshee ant, which is based on an actual insect that isn't really an ant, it's a type of wasp. You can also unlock new buildings like toxic fungi, gorgeous pearl, special nests, and more. Now here's the fun part. The ant armada includes guardian ants, shooter ants, and carrier ants. Plus you can call on reinforcements in the form of scorpions and spiders. It's like Game of Thrones, but with ants. PvE wise, you can run fades with jumping spiders, giant mantises, and more. You can choose what alliances you want to join and then make friends with players from all around the world. And mercilessly backstab them at every turn because there's no church in the wild and hell is not a consequence. Make sure you download the Ants Underground Kingdom. And use the redemption code to cash in on a bunch of benefits the game is offering just in time for the holidays to make sure your army is the strongest one. But if you're a honey badger, the strongest army is always an army of one. Honey badgers could be the mascots of Miralax because they don't ever give them, they just take them. And when I say it runs in a family, you can tell the honey badger took something from all of their cousins and made it theirs. We're gonna get to those cousins, don't worry. But first we gotta talk about what makes honey badgers such a middle finger to the natural order. First is the fact that they're not indestructible, but damn it, they're pretty close. Honey badger skin is tough and resilient, able to withstand bee stings, snake bites, and brutal maulings that would certainly be a game over for other animals. You could even come at a honey badger with a machete and it could still probably Eurostep any serious injury. There's even reports of these steroid skunks taking down African crested porcupines. The same ones that have about 30,000 good reasons why testing them could be really bad for your health. In really rare occasions, porcupines have crippled the top tier lions so badly that hunting humans was their only option. In 1965, after a lion nicknamed the Man-Eater of Darajani was finally put out of commission, it was discovered that it had been gored by a blade beaver, with one of the quills being lodged in its fractured teeth and another one nearly piercing its brain. Maimed and out of options, the starving lion put at least one Kenyan on a t-shirt. That's the kind of carnage porcupines are capable of, yet honey badgers can often survive an encounter with one thanks to their tough skin. The same reason they can square up with snakes and then live to try again. Honey badgers are menaces that have been known to turn deadly serpents like the puff adder and even the black mamba into a purse. Common misconception though is that honey badgers are immune to snake venom. They're not immune, they're much more resistant than other animals, but enough penetrating bites can flatline even a honey badger. But usually if a honey badger is wounded by a venomous snake, it'll just pass out in an almost coma-like state, only to get up a few hours later and walk it off like a Sunday morning hangover. Another fact is that not only is honey badger skin tough, it's incredibly loose, especially around the neck. So if one's ever being mauled by a big cat, this walking cigar can turn around while being attacked and deliver smoke directly to the face. Honey badgers are furry duracells, and anything short of a round directly to the skull isn't guaranteed to kill them. This durability is why honey badgers are either brave enough or stupid enough to blatantly steal from top predators, and they usually target leopards. Unlike lions and hyenas, leopards are solitary assassins that hide their prizes high up in the branches where they can't get their pockets picked. The food may be safe from lions, but they're not safe from a malicious equality symbol with nothing to lose. Honey badgers will risk it all by attempting to steal from a leopard by climbing a tree once it steps away from its meal. If the honey badger gets caught in the act, it'll throw a loud temper tantrum, hissing and screaming as it backs away. A method I'm sure they got from their close cousin the wolverine. The wolverine is a honey badger on PEDs, built for the freezing tundra of the north. And even though they're roughly in the same weight class as a medium-sized dog, tankier predators like bears and mountain lions will occasionally pay food taxes to this walking vibe check. But the thing with wolverines is, they have the strength and speed to catch their own bodies. Wolverines will stalk a potential victim for hours, even days, and there have been reports of wolverines posting up in trees just so they can wait for the right moment to pounce. But why waste the energy or calories doing that when you can just pickpocket a grizzly or clutch a 2v1 versus wolves? And just like the honey badger, wolverines will attack anything with a pulse. Difference is they have the tools to actually stop it. One wolverine put a polar bear in a headline after clamping its vice grip jaws around the struggling bear's throat until it suffocated.
God.
There have even been reports of a wolverine dropping a female moose by ripping at its shoulder blades until it eventually tapped out. In comparison, honey badgers have allegedly KO'd units like the Cape Buffalo and water buck. Except the honey badger's methods are different. Wolverines are little man syndrome but with bear trap jaws. Even though they might not have superhuman healing powers, they do have rotated teeth. Wolverines are equipped with upper molars rotated 90 degrees inward, meaning they can easily eat a grizzly bear's leftovers even if it's half frozen. That dental plan is why a wolverine will eat every part of an animal right down to the bones. Honey badgers don't have nearly that kind of power, but these prison-striped weasels do pack a nasty bite and they've been seen tearing into tortoises. Wolverines have one more secret, and it's that they smell really, really foul. Not only will they use the power of liquid booty as a threat, they'll spray the scent over any food they find to make sure no one else touches it. Which is why the wolverine is also nicknamed the skunk bear. Honey badgers also weaponize their south side. When threatened or just annoyed, the honey badger will reverse its anus inside out and release a liquid so vile it can suffocate anything near it. In fact, the smell is so offensive it can temporarily paralyze attacking bees. It's not hard to see how the skunk bear and the felony ferret pull up to the same family reunion.
That's crazy.
But you can RSVP the otter to the same function. Otters are considered the most intelligent of all mustelids, and they're a part of the rare group of animals that are able to create and use tools. This one's using a vending machine. In fact, they're so smart that in the 60s, the CIA allegedly tried to weaponize them. I actually made a video on this in an otter report that was created on my TikTok, so definitely go check that out. They're also an anomaly in that they're one of the rare social mustelids, which should give you mixed feelings. Because yes, sea otters will hold hands while
If you don't know Casual Geographic, you should definitely go find him on YouTube and give him a follow. His content is fucking fantastic.
sleeping so they don't float away. Despite my lack of emotion, I find that adorable. But otters, especially river otters, will jump anything that enters their territory, from caiman to jaguars to idiots with iPhones. If you want your idea of otters to be completely slaughtered in 10 seconds, Google otter and attack and count how many articles you get. A pack of 20 nearly took a man off the Singapore census permanently. A group of rogue otters drowned a woman's beloved dog as she could only watch. Once upon a time, a monkey wandered into the otter hood of the Bronx Zoo, and the outnumbered monkey paid the toll for his transgressions with his soul. That's really only scratching the surface. I already have an entire video dedicated to the carnage society lets otters get away with, but one fact should really hammer the point home. Sea otters have a violent mating ritual that involves biting his partner's nose pad so hard that he can tear it off while occasionally holding her head underwater. That is not the disturbing part, because frustrated male otters that couldn't find a mate will resort to taking their lack of options out on baby seals. Something they'll continue to do for up to a week even after the seal's soul has already evacuated. I mean that in the worst possible way. So in a weird twist, out of these three, otters might have the lowest morality, but to compensate they have the highest intelligence. Don't think honey badgers are just some crayon eaters, they're incredibly smart too. Like the kind of smart that would make them high-class criminals. In an experiment, a honey badger couldn't reach a box of food that was hanging from a branch of a tree. But what would have been a dead end for most animals was only a challenge for him. After a few seconds to carefully weigh his options, the honey badger proceeded to push his crate closer to the hanging box, to the point where he could stand on it to claim his prize. It might not seem like much, but being able to figure this out automatically puts honey badgers in the highest percentile when it comes to animal intelligence. But the best example would be this little guy named Stoffel. Stoffel was a well-known escape artist that would find some of the most creative ways to end his bondage. In one of his many escapes, Stoffel noticed a broom that had been left near him, dragged it over to one of the corners of his enclosure, leaned it against the wall, and then used it to emancipate himself. They tested his skills with a gate, and Stoffel the Black Air Force managed to undo the latches of the lock. They then put him in a cell surrounded by cement walls. Take a wild guess what this little weasel did. Stoffel dug up a bunch of rocks, and when he had enough, he piled them in a corner and Andy Dufresne'd himself. One night, his caretaker awoke to a burglar in his home at 1 a.m. You know where I'm going with this. Stoffel escaped again, only this time he broke into the farmer's house and even tried to get into his bedroom. And you want to know the most disrespectful part of it all? Stoffel was hand-raised by humans at a young age and imprinted on them. Meaning Stoffel had no intention of actually escaping. Nah, he was just doing it for the sport and for all the memes. And we know that because Stoffel would allow himself to be caught and returned back to his enclosure just so he could figure out another way to make his caretakers earn their pay. Breaking into the farmer's house past midnight was just grade A trolling. And of course, it would be criminal to not mention that time Stoffel escaped his enclosure and entered the lion's den where he was nearly brutally mauled to death. After he recovered, the first thing Stoffel did fresh out was try to find a way back to the lions to settle the score. Stoffel would also regularly break into the lodge kitchen where he would harass staff and help himself to any food he could find. They eventually gave him a lady badger thinking that would help him calm down. What they really did was introduce the Bonnie to his Clyde as they would now try to escape together. For their size, honey badgers have relatively large brains and they make it everyone's problem. But there's one more thing about them that really makes them a menace to society, and for that you have to look at its third cousin, the stoat. The stoat is one of the smallest of all mustelids, yet they regularly put prey 10 times their size out of commission. They do this by relentlessly chasing their prey, which are usually rabbits, until the prey eventually drops to exhaustion. Only then will the stoat deliver a devastating bite to the back of the skull. And once a stoat locks in on its target, there isn't a force in nature that can stop it. The stoat is so hyper-fixated that it'll even ignore rabbits that might be closer just so they can commit to pursuing its original target. That crackhead determination is not foreign to the honey badger. The only way a honey badger can fend off leopards, hyenas, and even the occasional lion is by constantly squirming, hissing, and biting until the attacker eventually decides it's not worth the calories. Even if they eventually do go out of commission, you can be sure the honey badger did not go quietly. The badger's stubborn nature is probably best summed up when you see what they do for honey. Honey badgers love breaking into beehives to eat energy-rich honeycombs. Unfortunately, that often means getting a face full of African bees, which are more aggressive and more nasty than their European cousins.
That would be killer bees in the US.
Even while being actively swarmed and attacked by bees. And even though they're resistant, they're not 100% immune to bee stings. Honey badgers have been known to keep raiding the same beehive for honey until they eventually get stung to death. But honey badgers don't care, they live life balls first with no fear of consequences. This willpower is how 2 honey badgers stepped to 6 young lionesses and still managed to survive. At one point, the honey badger found itself in the jaws of death, only to use its loose skin to turn around and bite the lion back. This leopard tried harassing a young baby badger, only to end up cosplaying as a cheetah once Mama Badger inserted herself into the conversation. Speaking of cheetahs, honey badgers have such a reputation that it's widely believed that cheetah cubs evolved to mimic their coloring to avoid confrontation with predators. The whole predatory cat, and evolution forced them to impersonate an African bush weasel just to get more respect. L for cheetahs, but another notch on a honey badger's chastity belt. I say chastity because they don't give a f. With the strength and durability of a wolverine, the intelligence and morale deficit of an otter, the pure coke-fueled willpower of the stoat, the honey badger's the only thing alive that can make a bowl cut intimidating. And that's gonna do it for this video, which was by far one of my most fun to make. If you want to support this channel, my Patreon's gonna be in the description. Also, like the video or suffer a honey badger vasectomy. Other than that, drink
It all
water,
sounds
hug your
well and
parents,
good.
happy holidays, and see you
Until
in the
they
next
start worshipping delivery services and bank accounts.
Autoplay not turned on. Okay.
Yup, because obviously one part just wasn't enough. I'm gonna make this real quick because I want to get right to the trauma. Earlier we talked about 10 of the worst ways animals can put a 404 on your birth certificate. That video is gonna be in the description in case you want to get caught up. But there were some pretty notable animals missing from the video, and half of that was on
The way he describes getting killed are so funny to me, like removing yourself from the census, activating your life insurance policy. That shit's so funny.
purpose so I'd have enough ammo for a part 2. The other half was honestly just me forgetting. So here's 5 more terrifying ways nature can put you under a headstone, and once again, viewer discretion is very much advised. And it's especially advised for one of the animals on here. You'll know it when you see it. All that out the way, let's get to the content. It's no secret that having an Australian area code really means agreeing to
Are
live
you
life
not
on
resting
veteran
like you
difficulty.
should? Oh, because...
And it's not just that everything with a heartbeat down there has the power to cancel yours. It's the way they can do it. Get too close to a cassowary and you run the risk of getting violently disemboweled. Play with a platypus and you might just find out that Perry's armed with an incapacitating venom more powerful than morphine. The blue ring octopus was actually one of the animals in a previous video because not only is it one of the most venomous things in the ocean, it's also small enough for you not to feel its toxic bite. Which is why out of all the nonsense in the land down under, this tiny octopus is what you should be the second most afraid of. The reason it's second is because this thing still exists. The Australian box jellyfish is the most venomous thing in the ocean, which obviously makes it one of the most venomous things in nature. They're armed with a crippling toxin potent enough to turn you into a statistic in as little as 2 minutes. And that's because its venom is a neurotoxin that attacks ion channels in muscles, causing them to contract but not release. When those muscles happen to be in the heart, that's what can cause victims to go into cardiac arrest. There have been cautionary tales of people being stung by box jellies while swimming and not even having enough time to make it to shore. The reason the box jellyfish is so disrespectful with its venom is because it's specifically designed to incapacitate its struggling prey before they have a chance to snap its tentacles. I call them the biggest middle finger to Australia because they're the polar opposite of blue rings. The blue ring's deadly bite may be painless, but those rings it's named after are designed to warn you before you even have a chance to get that close. Which means the only way this octopus can be a threat is if you're crazy enough or dumb enough to hold one. Box jellyfish give zero warning, they're virtually impossible to notice until you feel the immobilizing agony that comes with the sting. If you accidentally brush up against those tentacles, thousands of sting cells blast microscopic harpoons into your skin, which is how the venom gets to you. Victims have said getting stung feels a lot like getting branded with a hot iron, which makes sense, because that's exactly what the scars look like. Even if you survive, it can still give you the world's most painful tattoo, and if you're really unlucky, a nasty case of necrosis. And if that wasn't horrific enough, one species managed to take it a step further. The Irukandji jellyfish is roughly the size of a penny, yet it's somehow the most intimidating animal Australia has to offer. Its venom has been said to be 100 times worse than a cobra's and 1,000 times more toxic than a tarantula's. And because its venom is also a neurotoxin, symptoms can include crippling pain, vomiting, severe muscle cramps, escalating all the way to brain hemorrhaging, heart failure, and eventually a flatline. This tiny jellyfish can essentially destroy you from the inside. Since it can also put you in a comatose state almost indistinguishable from death, it basically turns you into the living dead. I'm not saying this homicidal sperm cell can cause a zombie apocalypse, but I am saying you do want to be ready. Which is why State of Survival lets you see how you do in a full-scale I Am Legend type zombie apocalypse. It's free to play and available on both Apple and Google App Stores. And for a limited time, anyone that's able to upgrade to a level 6 unlocks the Joker feature. Yeah, that the Joker. This feature lets you fight against his army of laughing zombies in the arena of doom.
And I will always watch the ads that they play in their videos, because if I'm watching their content for free, the least I can do is watch their ads.
In terms of just gameplay, there's multiple game modes like PvP and PvE. I prefer PvP, but only because I can't be truly satisfied winning unless I'm actively screwing someone else over. There's also the Explorer Trail option that lets you venture out into unknown areas and commit genocides on waves of zombies. And you're the good guy here, so it's justified. Download Seder Survival using the link in the description and use the code CASUALGEOSOS to redeem an in-game starter pack that you don't want to miss. Downloading with the link also gives you a chance to earn several $50 Amazon gift cards, which to me isn't a bad deal. But what is a bad deal is if you manage to come into contact with this jellyfish. Because one of the symptoms of Irukandji syndrome is an overwhelming feeling of doom. Some victims will reportedly be so sure they were going to die that they would beg the doctors to put them out of their misery permanently. And that's because the venom can cause a release of catecholamine, one of the things responsible for your flight or fight response, which makes this jellyfish one of the few animals that can bend you over psychologically as well as physically. Basically, it puts the fear of God in you to the point where you want to go meet him. That being said, with immediate medical attention, your chances of getting put on the news by a box jelly are surprisingly low. Doesn't change the fact that an estimated 50 to 100 people lose the lottery to this hellspawn each year. And because of the nature of the symptoms, that number could very well be higher and the deaths either go unreported or get falsely attributed to something else. The worst part is you will almost never see it coming, unlike the next animal. A few comments from the previous video questioned why I left big cats off the list, and honestly the answer is pretty simple. Cats are nature's perfect little killing machines, but because they're not pack hunters like hyenas or wild dogs, they have to put their prey out of commission before they eat it. This minimizes the risk of injury and allows them to carry their prize to a much more secluded spot, which means most big cats will mercy murk their prey with a quick but critical bite to the windpipe. But of course, there has to be an exception to every rule. Roll the clip. Jaguars are the only big cats that put their prey out of commission with a crushing bite directly through the skull. Jaguars are basically the bull sharks of cats. They're not the biggest or the most notorious, but pound for pound they're the strongest with the most devastating bite. A jaguar's max bite force has been estimated to be in a range from 13 to 1,500 pounds per square inch. That mouthpiece is not only strong enough to evict a turtle from its shell, but it produces enough force to puncture the skull and even pierce the brain. This method is enough to one-shot virtually anything in its area code, from capybara to caiman, and they've even been known to rip the cranial cap off of animals as tanky as the tapir, which can weigh over 800 pounds. Jaguars are ambush hunters that catch bodies by disabling their prey before they
I
even
am
have
not
a chance
trying to hear
react,
your business.
which is why a full-grown
What
caiman
is-
with a
what
brain
is
the size
this?
of a walnut has virtually no shot against a motivated vice grip with
Let's,
whiskers. And since jaguars primarily puncture the temporal bones of the skull, they
Go
essentially
ahead and,
punch holes in your head by biting
ban
between
that
the ears.
bullshit.
And because jaguars are as comfortable catching life sentences in water as they are on land, they're South America's all-terrain assault weapons. If a jaguar wants your name off the census, you're not even a person, you're a walking corpse at that point. But spoiler alert, jaguars don't even have the worst bite on this list. This snake is naturally shy, non-aggressive, and would much rather slither away from confrontation. It's when it feels cornered that the bum sling shows you why it's one of the most venomous
The
snakes
bum
to ever
sling.
live. This
What the fuck?
sub-Saharan serpent is armed with hematoxin-riddled venom, which contains anticoagulants that limits the body's ability to form blood clots. Which is how this introvert of a snake can cause fatal hemorrhaging in tissues in muscles and the brain, causing you to bleed into an obituary. If left untreated, the bite from a bum sling can cause you to bleed from virtually every orifice, including the eyes, nose, gums, and even the anus. Internal and external bleeding aside,
Alright.
there's two main reasons why
Alright.
this snake is a cell block D level menace. Number one is the lethal dose of the venom
Hey
itself.
babe, I'm coming.
It's been said that the amount of bum sling venom needed to introduce you to your ancestors is one of the lowest of any snake. Number
Everybody is up, and so I have to go. And it was nice hanging out with y'all. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, drop a follow. If you want to lurk, that's fine. I'm just going to play this. Turn off my webcam, and I'm just going to play this today. I'm just going to let this go. Just turn off video capture. Close program. And then And
two is because of the very nature of snakes. Venom is physiologically expensive to make, so snakes will often deliver dry bites when they don't want to inject venom. It's how they get their point across without wasting precious. It's a bad thing, and here's where nature shows you how much of a female dog she really is. Bumsling venom is slow acting, and it can take the victim several hours to feel the effects. This can cause victims to falsely assume the bite was dry and then not seek medical attention as urgently as they should. By the time you're bleeding out of your ass and eyes, you're already on the witness to the cookout in the clouds. And without anti-venom, a complete blood transfusion could be the only thing keeping you from a box in the ground. In 1957, herpetologist Carl Smith was bitten by a young juvenile bumsling, but he didn't immediately seek medical attention because he assumed the baby snake couldn't produce the lethal dose. You could probably guess how that movie ended. Instead of getting to a hospital, Dr. Schmidt recorded all of his symptoms after being envenomated. All of them, except for the last one. That day, Dr. Schmidt became past tense, likely at the hands of internal excessive bleeding, all because of one mistake. Had he been rushed to a hospital and received anti-venom, he might have lived long enough to learn his lesson. Lucky for us, the bumsling is timid and afraid of people, and for all its toxicity, it has a surprisingly low body count, believed to be only responsible for less than 10 deaths. Unlike the next animal, which has a body count not in the hundreds, not thousands, but likely in the millions. If I made a poll asking what the most dangerous animals in Africa are, some answers might include hyenas, the always homicidal hippopotamus, of course you can't forget the lion, and heavyweights like the African elephant, rhinoceros, and Cape buffalo might also make an appearance. And if you're an intellectual, you might say the mosquito since they co-author more death certificates than any other animal. But we know how much of a menace mosquitoes are. Most people don't think the same of this fly, and that's exactly why they're here. The tsetse fly is one of the most murderous things alive, believed to have a human hit rate of, at the minimum, 10,000 bodies a year. It's a parasite that feeds on the blood of others, and like the mosquito, that makes it the perfect vector for a handful of nasty diseases. The nightmare starts when an infected tsetse fly passes on the parasite trypanosoma to an unknowing human. Once that parasite turns your body into an Airbnb, it shuts you down from the inside. Being the landlord to this parasite can mean heart problems, kidney failure, anemia, and if you're pregnant, you might just get a visit from that young lady, Miss Carrie. But the most disturbing part is that it's now the second animal on this list that can do damage to your mental. This disease deteriorates your body to the point where just opening your eyes or feeding yourself can leave you exhausted. It doesn't help that one of the neurological symptoms is that it completely wrecks your sleeping schedule, causing insomnia at night and borderline narcolepsy during the day. That fun little fact is exactly how this disease got its name, African sleeping sickness. And that's not the only symptom either. Victims can experience drastic shifts in personality, usually resulting in uncontrollable episodes of aggression. This fly factory resets your personality, and the infected can become such a danger to themselves and others that there have been instances of victims being tied to poles where they can't hurt anybody. It's a debilitating disease, and one that slowly breaks you down until you eventually slip into a coma and never wake up. The only good thing is that statistically, the chances of becoming a hashtag after being bit are incredibly low, since the tsetse fly has to already be infected. But my mother would have raised a lie if I said that about the bite of the last animal on this list. There might not be a worse death sentence in nature than the one hiding in this picture. And that's because crocodiles have spent the last 200 million years perfecting the art of canceling life subscriptions. With the highest recorded bite force of 3,700 pounds per square inch, getting assaulted by a croc is like getting hit with a sledgehammer with teeth with enough power to tear flesh and crack bone. Not even the murderous hippo can match that force. The crocodile's hunting strategy involves sneaking up to its victim underwater while completely undetected, which they can do because nature put their eyes on the top of its head, giving them a disrespectful stealth factor. Those are all eyes, and they're all looking at you. Once they're close enough, they slam about 60 razor-sharp cones for teeth into their prey and then drag them into the water where they have a home court advantage. Especially since a crocodile can hold its breath for over an hour. And as if death by reverse baptism wasn't enough, crocodiles have possibly the most unforgiving finishing move of any animal. The crocodile's death roll is designed to rip their struggling prey apart into easier to swallow chunks of flesh. I'm not gonna let you see what just happened to that zebra, just know its neck is now non-existent. And with jaws like a snare trap, surviving a fade with a prehistoric homicide gecko usually involves negotiating an arm or a leg. The crocodile's hunting method is so successful that they've been around for hundreds of millions of years and barely had to change their playbook. But the most haunting thing about them is that they believe in the worst type of equality. Jaguars don't see humans as prey, and they're just as likely to run away from an encounter. For all its venom, the bumsling's first choice is always pacifism. For a crocodile, anything that makes enough of a disturbance in its waters can get put on a list. And out of all crocodilians, it's the Nile and saltwater crocodiles that have been known to attack humans with enough regularity to be classified as man-eaters. And because splashing only excites them, a good number of victims are small children that unintentionally play in its dining room. Crocodiles pack up about 1,000 people a year, and as we continue to encroach on their space, that number is only gonna get higher. And that's gonna do it for this video. Honestly, if this video doesn't get demonetized, I'd be more shocked than Pikachu, so my Patreon's gonna be in the description. Being a patron earns you access to videos before I post them, along with exclusive content you might not find anywhere else. We're still talking about animals here, it's not that kind of exclusive. But again, it's totally fine if you're not in a position to give money. It's not fine if you don't subscribe though, don't think that's okay. Hit that sub button or I'll auction your body to the highest bidding crocodile. I have the means, the resources, and the lack of morality to make it happen. To make up for that blatant threat on your way of life, here's Beaver Serotonin. Yeah, I don't know if this is the most disturbing, but this is definitely top 5. This is Malgas Island, and up to 60,000 of these birds called Cape Gannets will nest here. But don't worry, I'm gonna get to it. So normally these parents take turns, with one going out for food with the other staying behind to guard the chick. But because of overfishing, oftentimes both parents will go out for food, leaving the chick all alone on the island. Which wouldn't be a problem if they didn't know that. Because groups of these white pelicans will fly over to the islands and then walk around looking for any unsupervised gannet chicks, so that they can grab the baby birds and eat them alive while they're still struggling. And sometimes they'll just push the parents out the way and then swallow the newborn children right in front of them. It somehow gets worse. Those same pelicans will fly back to their nest and vomit the half-digested, recently murdered baby birds for the pelican chicks to eat. And because Cape Gannets have no real way to defend themselves, pelicans have no reason to stop. And since pelicans obviously don't have teeth, those chicks' last moments were spent suffocating while being digested alive by stomach acid, only to get regurgitated and eaten twice. Dinosaurs never went extinct. They just rebranded with feathers. You know penguins will sell themselves, but like, in that way? Let me explain. This is an Adelie penguin. If you hear a messed up penguin fact, it usually involves them. So basically, Adelies build their nests out of piles of pebbles, which means two things. Pebbles are a penguin's form of currency, and the penguin with the most pebbles is considered the most attractive. So female Adelie penguins will offer their bodies to males in exchange for a rock, and yeah, it's exactly what I'm making it sound like. Sometimes the female will give it up to a male in exchange for a pebble, even though she already has a mate waiting for her back at the nest. Scientists can't really confirm this, but it's believed the females do this so that if their mate gets packed up by a seal or something, they still have a backup. Doesn't stop there, because a lot of times the female will pretend to be interested in the single male, and right when the male thinks he's about to get it in, she takes the pebble and runs back to her actual mate. The best example I could think of is if you buy a girl a drink only for her to take it and bring it over to her man on the other side of the bar. Basically, these penguins pull a Cardi B, but, you know, without the Cosby part. And before you feel bad for them, just remember that male Adelies have been known to have relations with injured females, chicks, penguin corpses, and one even hooked up with the ground. To completion. Penguins are dressed as Wall Street brokers, and they have the moral compass of one too. Ocean, a f***ed up place, ain't it? That is Nermedia, but it's also called the ribbon worm. That thing that it's doing that's probably gonna get me a guideline violation. Yeah, that's how they eat. So that white stuff is its proboscis, and they'll basically shoot it out over a crab or a clam or whatever this thing eats. Also, it gets trapped and can't escape. Some types even inject a paralyzing toxin so their prey can't move, and then they'll add digestive juices so they can digest their prey before it's even in their mouth. And then this worm sucks its proboscis back in while also pulling its prey towards its mouth. It's like Spider-Man with a vor fetish. And some worms can shoot out a web that's 30 times their body length. That'd be like a man eating with a 180-foot tongue with hands. So yeah, that's not a worm enjoying December 1st. That's not a worm shooting out its liquid daycare. That is a worm trying to eat a man. The more you know.
Horrifying sound of a woman becoming a hashtag.
The biggest mistake you could make is going to save that woman. Because that's not a woman getting turned into a headline. That was a female mountain lion in heat. Female cougars will often make these shrieking, blood-curdling screams when they're in estrus. It's like their Batman signal for getting laid. Answering that call when it's not for you is how you meet Batman's parents. Of course, I'm exaggerating. Cougars are way more afraid of you and will probably go the other way if you pull up on them. What won't go away are the bricks in your pants after you try to be a hero and make eye contact with this walking steroid. I know it's not related, but I'm still gonna mention it. Tigers have been known to imitate the sounds of their prey to fool them into a false sense of security before they turn them into a hashtag. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, this is a margay and they do the exact same thing with baby monkeys. Now, I'm not saying the cougars do it on purpose, but I am saying that nature is a bitch like that. Also, I forgot to mention that cougars tend to scream while mating. So if you're ever alone in bed and hear a woman on a Tinder date with Joe from Okay, so here's why you and your dog should never go swimming with a kangaroo. One of the kangaroo's biggest ops are dingoes, and dingoes often hunt by chasing their prey into ditches or towards other members of the pack. It's like their version of catching you in an alley. Some dingoes in Central Australia will even chase kangaroos into fences where the dingoes know they can't escape. So whenever a kangaroo is being pressed by a predator, they'll instinctively head to the nearest body of water and then go inwards deep enough for their arms to be underwater. I call this the f**k around and find out. If the dingo follows it, then the kangaroo will take its arms and force it underwater until it gives up or gives out. And since they've had years of practice, kangaroos are really good at it. The problem is the generational trauma of being constantly hunted by dingoes means kangaroos are born racist towards anything that even looks like a dog. Which is why kangaroos will attempt to reverse baptize any dogs that mess around and get too close. And if you go in trying to be a hero, they'll happily take the 2 for 1. That's of course assuming he doesn't just kick the soul out you first. Now a lot of prey animals will run towards water to avoid problems, but this kangaroo is the problem. This isn't an invitation, it's an offer to get Uber to your ancestors. You know, f**k around and find out.
A known creature gives a New Yorker a heart attack.
What the fuck is that thing? It's a fucking bat! It's got the fucking virus!
I both can and cannot fully explain what that is. It's called a colugo, but it's also known as a flying lemur, even though there's somehow 2 lies in that one name. They don't fly, they glide, and since they spend most of their lives in their trees, they basically just airdrop themselves from branch to branch. And it's not a lemur. Lemurs are primates, making them related to gorillas, chimps, and us. But this thing isn't a primate. Whoever named it would probably name an atheist faith. They use that stretchy membrane called a patagium to glide like flying squirrels, and they can travel 650 feet without stopping. That's 200 meters or a little bit less than 2 football fields. But it's not a flying squirrel. There was a time people thought they were just God's rough draft of a bat, but colugos aren't related to bats either. And if you look at the order they're in, Dermoptera, they're the only living members. It's like pulling up to a family reunion and finding out you're the only one left. And because their entire personality involves flying, they're too slow and awkward to survive on the ground, and for an animal that lives in the trees, they're pretty mid-climbers. They're so bad at life that being nocturnal is probably the only thing keeping them alive. Mother colugos will carry their babies everywhere for the first 6 months, which made some people believe it was a marsupial, like some type of deformed air koala. But it's none of those things. So what the f**k is it? Well, scientists performed genetic analyses on them, basically a 23andMe for a flying carpet. And it turns out their closest evolutionary relative are primates. It's pretty much the closest you can get to primates without actually being one. Which means this dehydrated Dollar Tree chipmunk is more related to you than it is to an actual squirrel or bat. The more you know. Are you having a good day today? Well, don't, because we just found out there's venomous sharks swimming in the Thames River in London. You know sharks, right? You know those things with a built-in GPS that can smell blood from another area code? With a bite kinda like getting hit with a truck with teeth. Nature said it, gave them venom and decided to make it our problem. Now, as a rule, you'd normally expect this kind of nonsense from Australia, so the fact that it's in London makes me really think it's God giving us the middle finger. The worst part is, we really shouldn't be surprised. Sharks came up while Saturn was single because they're older than its rings, along with most dinosaurs and trees. I'm not even surprised they evolved venom, I'm just surprised it took me this long to find out. Now, to be fair, the sharks are taupe sharks. And taupe sharks are about 6 feet long, 80-something pounds, and they've never been known to attack a human. But they also found venomous spur dog sharks. And they have venom-producing spines that can cause pain and swelling in humans. Apparently, in 2009, a man was sent to the hospital after one of these sharks allegedly impaled his forearm with a spine. And there's even more venomous sharks out there, like the dogfish and smoothhounds. Now, the chances of a venomous shark being in your obituary are very, very low. You're actually more likely to get turned into a hashtag by a vending machine or a very pissed-off ex. But we can now add sharks to the list of animals that are venomous for no reason. Here's why hanging out with flamingos can be really bad for your health, and shout out to this comment for reminding me. Because African lesser flamingos will flock in lakes like Natron in Tanzania. And some of the water they choose to stand in is so toxic that if you tried to wade in it for 2 minutes, it would strip the skin off your legs completely. Because these are soda lakes, and because minerals like sodium carbonate flow into it, the lake ends up becoming overly basic and extremely salty. I hate chemistry, I had to retake it freshman year, and I should be entitled to compensation, so I'm not even finna lecture y'all. But basically, low pH means something's acidic, high pH means it's really basic. And because these lakes can have a pH of nearly 11, the water's so caustic that it burns the flesh of humans and animals that are not already adapted to it. And if it gets in your eyes, you'll be like Stevie wondering when the lights went out. Flamingos can survive in hypersalinated basic lakes because they have tough skin and scales on their legs to prevent burns. Also, apparently they can drink boiling water without flinching. Why even do all that? Well, flamingos get bodied by everything, including other birds. So to avoid getting harassed, they live in a place so inhospitable that nobody goes through the effort of following them. It's like if Ben Simmons left Philly to go play in Utah. Utah not even a bad team, but when's the last time you went to Utah for spring break? Never, and that's why they do this. I swear I wasn't gonna make this video, but Buddy triple dared me, so here's how up Lion King would be if it was a little more accurate. This might have been the end of the movie. Baboons will kidnap unattended lion cubs, and that usually ends with one less lion. Obviously, I know Rafik is a manjul, you can delete the comment you're probably typing, but primates have a natural hatred towards big cats like lions and leopards. Which means this scene would have sent the movie to the credits and turned Simba into initials on a Twitter bio. As the new head male, the first thing Scar would have done was murder Simba and Nala, since when new males take over, they destroy whatever cubs the previous male left behind. Which leads me to the next fact: Simba and Nala would have been half-siblings because they would have had the same father. Most lion prides only have one male that's allowed to mate. Sometimes the lionesses get something on the side, but typically their options are restricted to one. Which means this scene would have required a lot of therapy. Family therapy. Meerkats are one of the most murderous animals in the world, and that's not even a joke. There was a study done to see what mammal commits the most murders, and the animal at the top, about 20% of meerkat deaths were caused by another meerkat. And now we know why Timon was on his own. Also, Simba would have been kicked out of the pride regardless. Because where lionesses spend their lives in the pride they were born in, males typically leave after 2 to 3 years, and it's usually the head male that drives them out. Which means Mufasa would have likely been the one showing Simba the door. Am I overanalyzing a kid's movie? Maybe, but he dared me, so it's not my fault. If you can't see it in 3 seconds, you're already dead. Alright, time's up. Did you find it? Oh, not the lion. I meant the hyena inside. So what a lot of people don't realize is that lions actually steal from hyenas more than hyenas do to them. And lions hate hyenas so much that males will chase them down, snap their spines to paralyze them, and then just leave them to die. And in return, hyenas turn any lion cubs they find into chalk outlines. Lions and hyenas are like a Mormon couple before marriage. They do not with each other. So when one hyena was feeding on an elephant corpse and 7 male lions pulled up, he did the only thing you can really do. The hyena buried itself inside the dead elephant's rotting carcass with 7 of his ops just inches away, and it hid there while the lions ate. And when the lions weren't looking, the hyena made a break for it as the lions chased him and made a break for his neck.
That's
Even though
nuts.
it was 1 on 7, the hyena managed to escape and hand the entire team an L. But if you're from Detroit, that's nothing new. Here are some facts about lions you're probably better off knowing. The most dangerous time to be around a pride of lions is during a storm, since lions are more likely to hunt when it's darker out. Lions are basically serial killers with night vision, and they know it gives them an advantage, so as ambush hunters, they'd much rather try to catch a body when they know they have the cover of darkness to hide under. On a similar note, man-eating lions are really rare. But a lion's most likely to turn you into a news article after a full moon, because that's when they're typically at their hungriest. Because the light of the full moon eliminates their element of surprise, they experience a lower hunting success rate, which is why a lot of documented predatory attacks on humans took place after a full moon when they're at their most desperate. Lions are typically more selfish than tigers, because where tigers in the wild are often more willing to share if 2 of them come across a meal, lions are much more cutthroat and will occasionally even snatch leftovers from cubs. Male lions don't always have manes, but sometimes females do. In 2016, researchers observed 5 lionesses that grew manes and started acting like males, even going as far as to start mounting other females. They would also frequently roar and mark their territory, 2 things that are more associated with lions rather than lionesses. And the reason was believed to be because of hormonal defects causing excessive levels of testosterone in the females. Oftentimes after a successful hunt, lions will leave the immediate area to give their prey a chance to let their guard down again, which increases their success rate for the next hunt. Researchers tracking African lions noticed that more than 80% of the time, the lions would travel more than 3 miles from the kill site. Basically, lions give their victims time to process and recover from the trauma just to give it to them again. Now that's tough. Here's the biggest lie you've been told about lions. The king of the jungle is really a queen, because a lion pride is actually led by females, not the male. Lionesses are the ones that own a territory and will defend it together, while males typically leave after 2 to 3 years. Which means the females are the landlords while the males are just on leases. Sometimes that lease gets cancelled along with the male, because sometimes lionesses will gang up on elderly males and end both their time as leader and time on earth if they feel like they're unfit to lead the pride. This male was jumped out by at least 10 of his women with what had to be considered homicidal intent. Safari workers did break it up with a fire extinguisher, but they were 100% going for blood. Doesn't get any better in zoos, in fact sometimes it's worse. In 2018, a lioness named Zuri murdered the father of her 3 cubs, and zookeepers never really figured out why. When Lion King had Nala put Simba on his back, they weren't too far off. Lionesses are all a sisterhood, and they'll even get pregnant and give birth around the same time just so they can take turns babysitting each other's kids. It also means if you mess around and piss one sister off, you'll have to see them all. Moral of this video, turns out we've been spelling it wrong. It's actually Lion King, because Simba acting like he ran the show was nothing but cat. Did you know lions are kind of racist? Lions with darker manes are considered more attractive in lion society. It's because darker manes correlate to higher levels of testosterone and better overall health. Basically, lion beauty standards mean Scar would have gotten more than he would know what to do with. And according to research done in South Africa, lions with black manes reportedly healed better from injuries and survived longer than lighter manes. Yeah, they got that part right. But it also means blonde and light-maned lions get screwed. Actually, they don't, and that's the problem. Lighter manes are less attractive to females, meaning it nerfs their chances of having cubs of their own. And because higher testosterone makes better fighters, light manes are more likely to get bodied and vibe checked by darker manes. But dark manes don't got it easy either. Long dark hair might attract more females, but it also attracts more heat to the lion, which is why lions with black manes are more likely to have defective sperm. Remember, the reason most animals have their baby factory hanging outside is because too much heat can handicap you. So because nature's a sick joke, the same thing that helps the lion get laid can also be the same reason they can't have cubs. They can spread the seed, but there's a chance nothing will grow. The more you know. Here's why trusting this monkey can get you murdered. This is a yellow baboon, and he's probably the biggest sellout in nature. Baboons have these alarm calls they'll make to warn others of danger. So if one baboon sees like a lion, it'll make the call and all the others will rush into the safety of the trees. And it turns out other animals like the antelope and the kudu have actually figured out the baboon's alarm system. So whenever they hear it and see the monkeys climbing into the trees, they take that as a sign to peace out too. Now there's two problems with this. The baboons know that the antelope rely on them to not get killed, but they also know that the safest lion is one that's already been fed. So now these baboons will play lookout, but instead of warning the others when they see lions hunting, not only will they stay quiet, but sometimes they'll even leave the tree and wander on the ground like nothing's wrong. That makes the antelope think they're safe. That's how they end up on Mufasa's meal prep. And just to make it worse, sometimes the baboons will actually sit and watch the animals that thought they can trust them fall into the trap and get hunted down. And as long as they keep sacrificing other animals, the baboons know the lions won't come after them. It's like being a lookout but going mute when the police show up so you don't end up in cuffs. And since baboons historically hate big cats like lions and leopards, and to the point where they'll kidnap and abort cubs because they're afraid of what they'll grow into, it's literally the animal version of working with the feds. Moral of this video, y'all called him a rat when you really could have just called him a baboon from bush. Here's why this lion is terrified, and you should be too. It's being chased by a herd of Cape buffalo. They can weigh 1,300 pounds, they delete about 200 people a year, and they're so homicidal they've been nicknamed Black Death. They also travel in hoods of up to 200. I want you to remember that number. And that's because Cape buffalo are one of the very few animals that will actively seek revenge on others. When a Cape buffalo is wounded by a hunter, its first response is to retreat and hide in tall grasses or brush. If you're dumb enough to follow it, then 1,300 pounds of malicious intent will ambush you and knock you to the ground. Then they'll back up and then they just wait. Because if you manage to get back on your feet, then this black Air Force Oppa will charge and gore you again. And they'll keep this up until you just stop moving. It gets really bad when you piss off a whole herd, because then they'll form a circle around you and completely erase the option of escape. They'll keep you in that circle until one sees an opening and attempts to impale you. And the same rules apply. If you're still moving, then their job's not finished until you are. Which is why one of the most vicious animals you can hunt is an African cow from the trenches. Which is why it has another nickname, Widowmaker. Because the fastest way to get out of a marriage is to tell your husband to go hunt one in the morning, because then you'll go to bed one human being lighter and one life insurance policy richer. This man was Joe Exotic before Joe Exotic. This is Mr. Antoine Yates. And in 2001, Yates was 31, he was a construction worker, and he was the owner of an 8-week-old kitten that he kept in his Harlem housing project. As a kid, he was obsessed with animals. Sounds familiar. And when he was 3, he got his first pet, which was a hamster. It only escalated from there. Fast forward to 2003, Harlem police were called to his apartment to follow up on a complaint. The complaint being that Yates had a 6-foot pet alligator named Al that he kept in a tank. But when police used a periscope to look inside his apartment, this is what they saw.
Oh shit. I think I remember
That
this guy.
8-week-old kitten was actually a Bengal tiger cub that grew into a 450-pound assault weapon. His name was Ming, by the way. Antoine bought him from an animal park and was feeding him with raw chicken that he bought from a supermarket. And people didn't even start finding out about it until Yates went to a hospital with bite and claw marks and tried to say his pet pit bull did it. Here's where the story gets interesting. Apparently, Antoine had roommates in his 5-bedroom apartment that at first didn't know they were also rooming with a whole tiger. One woman said she was terrified at first, but eventually got used to having her life in danger every time she came home from work. When Yates eventually got busted, his mom got charged as well. Why? Well, it turns out she had been babysitting in the apartment at the same time that Shere Khan was still a tenant. And when his neighbors were questioned, they said he had had bear cubs, rabbits, monkeys, hyenas, snakes, one llama, weird that he only had one, and even a lion cub. Remember, this started with a fucking hamster. Ming the tiger was tranquilized and sent to Noah's Lost Ark in Ohio, where he lived until 2019. And Yates went on to sue the state of New York for the loss of his pets, only for a judge to curse him out of court. Moral of the story, no matter what Florida does, New York is never too far behind. Okay, we're gonna do this one last time and then I will never speak about this again. The Black Panther, not an animal, like, it ain't real. Because panther can be any one of these right here. Because the word panther refers to Panthera, which is a starting lineup of cats that includes lions, tigers, jaguars, leopards, and snow leopards. We good so far? So technically, any one of these cats can be called a panther. Now, Black Panther is just a word for any one of these cats that has a mutation that causes melanism, but it only affects 2 of them. So when you say Black Panther, you're really just talking about a dark-skinned leopard or jaguar, and it's probably a jaguar. Because the gene that causes these charcoal cats is dominant in jaguars but recessive in leopards. But technically, if a lion, tiger, or snow leopard got this mutation and came out black, we would be able to call them Black Panthers too. Because I already know I'm finna get that one smart-ass comment. Yes, some people call this a panther. The mountain lions aren't part of the Panthera genus. In fact, they don't even qualify as big cats. Cougars are actually closer to your pet cat than they are to lions or tigers. So yeah, what you call a Black Panther is really just an emo jaguar. And if you're close enough, you'll see that even though they're black, they still have the same spot patterns that the normal ones have. If you're close enough to see that, you're probably gonna see nothing but black next. I'm actually glad you said that, because fun fact, pink panthers do exist.
Damn.
This leopard has a super rare mutation that causes the coat to appear strawberry flavored, instead of the normal brownish orange with black spots. Remember the rule, if it's any one of these cats, it can be called a panther. Now this pink panther has a mutation called erythrism. And because it's so rare, we don't really know that much about it, but it's believed that it causes the body to produce extra red or pink pigments. This also happens in animals like raccoons and coyotes. But for an animal like a leopard whose life literally depends on being able to hide, it's even rarer, and he's right there, by the way. Though it doesn't really look pink, but it's like a pinkish hue. But since leopards qualify as panthers, that's your pink panther right there. Also, we got white panthers too. Like a colonizer's response to Wakanda, but like an actual cat. This lion has a mutation called leucism, which causes partial pigment loss. To be confused with being albino, which is total pigment loss. And one last time, because y'all keep making me say it, since they're one of these cats, you can call this a white panther and be factually correct. Then you have this white cougar that was found in a national park in Brazil in 2013. When I say rare, it was recorded 8 years ago and never seen again. But mountain lions aren't part of the Panthera genus, so they have to sit at the little cat lunch table with cheetahs, ocelots, bobcats, and even pet cats. The more you know.
Listen, did you know that a polar bear's skin is black and their fur is...
Yeah, polar bear black skin, got it. Hey, go follow that guy, he's pretty cool. But listen, did you know that lions will roar as a pride to mark their territory? And these roars can last up to 40 seconds and travel for 5 miles. And since they do it together, cubs will try to join in even when they aren't old enough to roar yet. And it sounds something like this.
That's the cutest sound of death I've ever heard.
Yeah, you kind of have to have a good day after seeing that. Like the president, you finna be heaven sent.
Oh shit.
The African wilderness has some of the most vicious and violent predators on the planet. Some of them we've actually already talked about. So it says a lot that out of all of them, the one nicknamed Black Death is actually a vegetarian. The African Cape Buffalo erases about 200 names from the census each year. That's not counting the people that live but still get severely gored. They're also strong enough to ragdoll top tiers like lions, hyenas, and of course, people. Those horns aren't just for intimidation. When a Cape Buffalo charges, the hooked end of its horns can get caught under the skin and tear apart the flesh of a predator or a tourist that just doesn't know any better. Of course, at 1,300 pounds, they don't need horns to end you. They can easily just trample you into a chalk outline. But there's another thing about them that makes them not only a walking obituary, but earn them another nickname, the Widowmaker. Because one of the fastest ways to get a divorce is to tell your husband to go hunt a Cape Buffalo, because then you'll probably go to bed single. And that's because this Widowmaker is one of the most vengeful animals on Earth. A wounded Cape Buffalo will often retreat and hide in tall grass or brush. Now, if the hunter has more than one brain cell, he'll usually just give up and leave the beast alone. But if you make the mistake of following the injured animal, then you run the risk of getting ambushed and knocked clear into the ground. And after hitting you, the Cape Buffalo will just back up and wait for you to get back on your feet just so they can hit stick you again. They'll keep doing this until you just stop getting up. That's just what one can do to you. These guys can travel in hoods of up to 200. And these herds will often circle a possible threat, leaving no possibility for escape. And they'll just keep circling until one eventually sees an opening and attempts to impale you. And the same rules apply. If you're still moving, they're not finished. That kind of attitude is why lions cosplay as house cats when a herd of buffalo is involved. And why hunting one should come with a life insurance package. And out of the entire starting lineup known as the African Big Five, these murder cows are considered to be the biggest threat. But ironically, one of the most feared mammals on the entire continent isn't on this list. Yeah, no suspense here. Hippos are just waterproof horses with a sender's address for hell. Hippos put about 500 names in Twitter bios a year, and that number is probably higher. They're famous for choosing violence with anything in their territory, from antelope and crocodile, all the way to lions, humans, and literally everything else. Like, if you have a pulse, they'll find a reason to hate you. In fact, the biggest threat to a hippo's way of life is very literally often another hippo. Because oftentimes when resources are low, bull hippos will see babies as competition and will turn the adorable infants into fish food. Here's a dark joke for you. Where did the baby hippo go after the baby shower? Everywhere. He went everywhere. Despite being the third heaviest thing on the planet with legs, hippos can run at speeds of 30 miles per hour. And they can outswim you, or technically outrun, because hippos don't swim, they literally run underwater. And I don't think that makes this video any better. But just like actress Tiana Trump, it's that mouth that makes them infamous. Bull hippos have tusks that can max out at 20 inches long, and they can slam their jaws at nearly 2,000 pounds of force. But if you've ever seen one eat a watermelon, you already knew that. Which is why the biggest mistake a croc can make is pull up to a hippo pool party, because it can end up getting turned into a purse. And the biggest mistake a person can make is getting too close. I hope this is photoshopped. Hippos are one of those animals that don't need a reason to turn you into a statistic. Hippos don't typically eat meat, but their attack style involves using that massive overbite and chewing a person into human applesauce. And it's the attacks in water that are the most brutal. Even if you survive, the toll for crossing hippo territory can cost an arm, a leg, multiple broken bones, and even a punctured lung or two. One tourist guide in Zimbabwe was allegedly swallowed by this land whale not once, but 3 times. And you want to know the worst thing about getting deep-throated by this obese demon donkey? Other than the smell. It's knowing that your options are to either stay inside and suffocate, or try to escape and end up negotiating your left arm in the process. As for the tourist guide, by the time he got out, he had suffered 38 bite wounds, including one so nasty it exposed his lungs and completely crushed one of his arms. This man rescued an orphan baby hippo from a flood and raised him as his own. He even named it Humphrey and said it was like a son to him. Well, Humphrey ended up mauling and mutilating his foster father in the same river he was rescued from. That's honestly how most movies with hippos end. But at least hippos are so massive they're impossible to miss. The next animal is the size of a golf ball but can turn 26 people into a very loaded story on CNN. The blue ring octopus is a lot of things.
Yeah, this
tiny,
motherfucker.
cute, and it's one of the most venomous things alive. It's armed with a neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin, and the lethal dose for a human could fit on the head of a pin. Plenty of animals are venomous in Australia, from the jellyfish right down to the peries. But there's one disturbing fact about blue ring octopus. The blue ring octopus is so small that most people don't even realize when they've been bitten. And because they're so small and cute, some people will put the octopus in their hands not realizing they're putting their lives in the octopus's. Because not only is tetrodotoxin 10,000 times more powerful than cyanide, the neurotoxin shuts down muscles by blocking sodium channels. This decision can lead to muscle paralysis, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, and then a permanent rest. Which is why one of the smallest animals on this list can turn you into past tense in as little as 30 minutes. And remember, you don't feel when this blue ring Bundy bites you. Meaning you can hold it like this for 3 seconds and then flatline in the same hour. And if you're swimming while that paralysis hits, use your imagination. Oh, and there's no antidote. All medical professionals can do is hook you up to a respirator and manage your breathing just long enough to keep you alive. But with immediate medical attention, the chances of getting put in a casket by this blue ring hellspawn are actually pretty low. But with a bite that's impossible to feel, it's very possible to not realize you've been wounded. And without medical attention, the chance of your soul getting evicted suddenly becomes a lot higher. Which means this lady just barely Eurostep becoming a name on a stone in one of the worst ways possible. Cause anything that tries this hard to be seen is probably more toxic than Future. That goes for octopus and people. This last one deserves its own viewer discretion warning because in some ways it's the most disturbing animal on this list. Not only does it have the highest human body count, you can be a victim and not even realize it. That's because it's believed that over 1 billion people in the world are infected with parasitic worms. They're especially a problem in places with limited access to clean drinking water. But don't think this is just some third world problem. All you have to do is swim in waters containing eggs and you can lose the lottery and become a landlord to these parasites. Once inside you, these worms can cause a bunch of nasty infections and complications, but there's one disease that really stands out. These demonic flesh ropes are filarial worms, and they're as thin as sewing threads. And their favorite hangout spot is in your lymph nodes, where a bunch of them can block fluids from leaving the body, which can cause tissues in the body to swell almost like a disturbing cartoon. Which is how a worm you need a microscope to see can cause a nightmarish condition known as elephantiasis, the situation where your leg can swell to the same size and color as an elephant's. And it doesn't just give you Dumbo-sized cankles. All guidelines will allow me to say is Google South Park wheelbarrow. Get infected with filarials and you might need one. But the unsettling part is you may never know you've been violated by filarials until
Medical
it's too
fried
late.
chicken.
Millions of people around the world are infected and a lot of them have no idea. Which means, of course, statistically, someone watching this video has to have it. If it makes you feel any better, if you live in America, you apparently can't get infected with filarial worms. But you're not safe from the hundreds of other parasites that could turn your insides into an Airbnb. Around the world, hundreds of millions of people are infected with parasitic worms as we speak. And if you happen to be asymptomatic, they can put a whole mortgage down on your body and you would be the last to know. And that's just about it for this video. If you actually enjoyed this video, first of all, you're a psychopath. But also my Patreon's going to be in the description in case you want to support this very questionable content. In fact, you could have watched this video 2 days before I posted it on Patreon. But as always, please don't feel like you have to send money in order to show support. Please feel like you have to subscribe though. I'm not playing with y'all. Subscribe or I'm just going to assume you have worms. Also follow my Instagram, if for no other reason but to help me get verified. There's videos on there too, but honestly I just want that blue check more than a crippin' Nike athlete. Happy Halloween, drink water, hug your mother, and have a nice day. Even though I probably just ruined it. Happy Halloween, hope you're having a great day. Snakes can fly. Did you know that? This is a Southeast Asian chrysoplia, but it's also called the flying snake. Flying snakes spend most of their time in the trees, and by pressing the ridges of their scales against the bark, they can actually climb straight up a tree even with no arms or legs. But instead of climbing down, these snakes save energy by flying from tree to tree. Basically, by flattening its body, the snake's belly forms a concave surface, kind of like a frisbee. By turning itself into a living parachute, not only can these snakes easily move through the air, they can actually make turns mid-flight. And even though I low-key lied about them flying, these snakes can glide farther than animals like flying squirrels. In fact, a motivated snake can go for 330 feet. For non-Americans, that's about 100 meters. For Americans that don't understand distance, that's about the length of a football field.
For
These snakes
Americans
don't
that
usually fight
understand
against
distance.
bodies. In fact, most of the time they're doing it to avoid other animals. Even though it is venomous, unless you're like a rat or something, it probably won't kill you. Don't be a snitch. It doesn't change the fact that somewhere in the world you can actually look up and see a snake getting hang time right over your head. I want you to remember that tonight. This bird can end your life in one of the worst ways possible. This is a hooded pitawee and it's the only poisonous bird in the world. Its feathers, skin, and even tissues contain a potent batrachotoxin that it steals from the beetles it eats. That same poison is the reason why this frog can murk 20,000 mice, pack up 10 people, and even though it can sleep on a quarter, this frog allegedly contains enough toxin to drop a full-grown elephant. And that's the same poisonous toxin Sweetie uses to defend itself. And because its poison is a neurotoxin, it basically shuts down muscle by blocking the sodium channels of nerve cells, meaning it would just get harder and harder for you to breathe until your lungs shut down. Eventually you'd become paralyzed, you'd lose consciousness, and your heart would stop. Not only can the poison turn you into past tense in only 10 minutes, the amount of poison it would take to turn your name into a hashtag weighs as much as 2 grains of salt. If you touch this bird with your lips, your entire mouth would go numb, and we know that because someone actually did it. But to be fair, this bird's never taken a human life, that we know of. But this tiny bird has the power to put you on the news, and I don't think nearly enough people talk about it. It's Halloween, so naturally I gotta ruin your day. This is your only chance to scroll. So way back when in Victorian England, people would try to remove tapeworms by first having the patients starve themselves for a couple of days. Then they would insert a cylinder with food into the digestive tract to lure the tapeworm, and then it would be pulled out through the mouth. Now the problem was that some of these tapeworms grew to 6 feet long, so allegedly there was a good number of patients that actually choked to death before it was completely out. But the worst part, back then a lot of women would purposely infect themselves with tapeworms, that way they could eat whatever they wanted without gaining weight. A very literal big mistake, because tapeworms can grow to 26 feet long and it can live inside the host body for 30 years. That's a whole mortgage, my guy. Also, tapeworms give birth more than any other animal, since they can have up to 1,000 segments called proglottids, and some species have up to 100,000 eggs in just one of them. Meaning some tapeworms can release nearly 1 million eggs in a 24-hour cycle. And if you're infected with that tapeworm, that means you probably do too. According to health organizations, about 50 million people are infected right now, and unless you show symptoms, you might never know it's inside you. In fact, some tapeworms can suppress the immune system so that your body's built-in defenses don't attack it. But it also means some tapeworms could cause you to have less of an allergic reaction to certain things. So if you ever wake up one day and you can drink milk all of a sudden, you might want to get checked. You might just have a roommate living rent-free in your guts. Pause.
Woman nearly meets God without even realizing it.
I don't think y'all understand just how lucky this woman is. Now you definitely know that's a blue ring octopus. And I'm sure you know it's one of the most venomous things on the planet. And you might even know that one bite from it is toxic enough to put 26 men on milk cartons. There's a special thing about them that somehow makes them even worse. Because it's so small, if this octopus bites you, there's a good chance you're not gonna feel it. It's like a pinprick, and it's why most people don't even realize the countdown's already started. Because you don't feel it, but when this homicidal golf ball bites you, it injects you with a neurotoxin about 10,000 times more powerful than cyanide. And once that venom's in your body, it can shut down muscles, causing difficulty breathing and eventually paralysis. Meaning you would just suffocate to death. Which is why this octopus can kill you in as little as 30 minutes. Which is bad enough, but if you don't know you've been bitten, you can end up getting flatlined out of nowhere if you don't seek medical attention. And if the paralysis hits you while you're swimming, use your imagination. Basically, you can hold this octopus for 3 seconds and be a was in half an hour. Which means this woman Eurostep dying in one of the worst ways possible. Anything that tries that hard to be seen is probably more toxic than future. That goes for animals and people. This is what happens when one of the deadliest animals in the world gets a taste for humans. So back in 1898, the British started building a railroad bridge over the Savo River in Kenya, and they employed several mostly Indian workers over an 8-mile area. But what they didn't realize was they had accidentally wandered right into the territory of one of the top predators on the planet. Because over the next 9 months, 2 maneless male lions would stalk the workers, and when they would return to the campsite after a long day, the lions would sneak in and literally drag the workers out and maul them into a statistic. And eat them. And at first, only 1 lion at a time would enter the campsite. But eventually the 2 male lions started catching bodies together as a team. The crew tried to break this kill streak by putting up a thorn fence. Told them a motivated Simba can jump 11 feet in the air, so the lions easily cleared it. In only 3 months, 29 workers had been put in an ashtray by the hungry lions, to the point where the other workers started to panic and leave the construction site. So the head officials responded by bringing in hunters to evict the lions from the area, and you know where it goes from here. Cowie's looking down at him. He knows how this movie ends. Late one night, the lions allegedly broke into the hunter's cabin where they mauled one hunter, dragged him outside, and that was the night his name got taken off the census. Eventually, the 2 lions were shot and put out of commission, and it took 9 rifle shots to drop the second one. Eventually, the railroad workers finished the bridge, but it cost over 130 men and 2 lions to do it. And the number of men lost was an estimate, because apparently lions don't leave a lot of their victims behind. And with all the bodies the lions caught, the workers might have built the track, but the lions ran the train.
Wait for it. I can explain.
Once upon a time, I downloaded TikTok as a joke, and now I explain stuff like this for a living. Ain't that some shit? So when a lot of baby birds are still in the nest, instead of deucing all over the place, instead they'll dump into a white mucus membrane called a fecal sac. It's basically a built-in diaper for baby birds. And just like in the video, normally as soon as a chick is fed, it'll release a sac for the parent to deal with. Because being a parent literally means dealing with all kinds of shit. If the chick can't produce a sac on its own, then the mother will poke and prod around its clothing to stimulate it into dropping its pamper pack. And the reason they do this is because 1, keeping all that nastiness in the sac keeps the nest clean, and number 2, the cleaner the nest is, the less likely it is that a predator finds it. Now the reason the mother eats it is because baby birds can't digest food completely, so they end up leaving a lot of nutrients in their poop. And since nature loves to recycle, oftentimes the parent, usually the mother, will eat the sac so the nutrients at least don't go to waste. The more you pay attention, the more you realize birds are just really f***ing weird like that. Normally by the time the chicks are ready to fly, they don't need a fecal sac anymore because their systems can handle all the food they normally eat. If I have to know this, so do you.
Is that normal? No. What is that?
So sharks have this reboot feature where they go into a trance-like state and can't move at all. It's called tonic immobility, and it usually lasts for about 60 seconds, but it can go on for up to 15 minutes when left alone. You can also trigger it yourself by rubbing a shark's snout near its eyes. And once the shark snaps out of it, it goes back to whatever it was doing like nothing ever happened. We don't know for sure why they do this, but most scientists believe it has something to do with mating. It also could be because sharks use electroreception to figure out where they and other animals around them are. It's like an already installed GPS. So flipping a shark upside down probably just disorients them, and tonic immobility stops them from moving and thrashing around until they can readjust themselves. Also, this can and has been used against them. Once off the coast of California, a female orca held a great white shark upside down for 15 minutes. Since the shark was paralyzed and couldn't escape, it ended up suffocating to death. Which is probably why a waterproof Oreo can legitimately traumatize a shark for an entire year. No, seriously, sharks will avoid an area for a whole trip around the sun if they run into an orca once out of fear being factory reset by them.
Angry cougar follows man for nearly 6 minutes.
So this hiker actually did the right thing and saved his own life. With ambush hunters like wildcats, you never want to turn away from them because then you might activate their predator response and then they'll just hit you from the they'll attack from behind. You also never want to run because then you'll just trigger them into chasing you. And at up to 45 miles per hour, you're not going to get very far. It's like hitting snooze on death. Also, you never want to crouch down and be in a position lower than the cougar. Mountain lions don't recognize humans standing on 2 feet as prey, but if you squat or bend down, the walking flex could confuse you for a 4-legged prey animal, and if it does, it's credits. In general, you never want to crouch down in mountain lion country, even if you don't think there's one around. Because just because you don't see him, doesn't mean he don't see you. So to not get turned into a story on CNN, you want to stand tall and speaking a loud, firm voice. It really doesn't matter what you say. Cougars don't understand English, but they do understand volume, and if you speak loud enough, you can actually intimidate them. And like the man in the video, you're going to want to do this while backing away slowly. You don't want to turn your back, and you don't want to go too fast, because if you trip and fall and get turned into a hashtag, you're going to feel really stupid in the afterlife. Also, cougars are actually afraid of people and normally won't attack you unless they feel cornered. In fact, the cougar in this video doesn't want to attack the hiker, and if I had to guess, the hiker accidentally got too close to the cougar's cubs. Cougars will hide their cubs in brush and bushes, so it's basically the mother's way of escorting you out. And if a cougar does charge, 90% of the time it's just a bluff to intimidate you. 10% say goodbye. But you can respond by throwing rocks and sticks not at the cougar but at the ground in front of it as a warning shot. That's how you survive a cougar. Or at least the cat. If a cougar presses you here, I got no tips for you. But she might. This video was sponsored by World of Tanks. Birds, for the most part, spend their entire lives the same way they started, with zero regard or concept of morality and no deference toward the idea of a higher being. Basically, they're bastards with wings. Animals don't typically operate on morality because nature really doesn't care how good of a person you are. Good karma won't keep your kids from starvation and it won't stop life from slapping you in the face with an octopus. So technically, it really wouldn't be fair to judge animals based on morality. But if we could, birds would never see the light of heaven. I don't know why, but nature insisted on making sure birds survive only by inflicting pain and suffering on others, often in some of the most brutal ways possible. So because I have nothing better to do and this is my life now, here are some birds that would score a negative on the Rice Purity test. First, we got this paralysis demon with wings, the giant petrel. Basically, take everything bad about seagulls, teach it the table manners of vultures, put it on steroids, and you get a penguin's worst nightmare. More on that later. The giant petrel earned the nickname the Stinker because they'll feed on any decaying, rotting carcass no matter how putrid the festering meat is. And just like vultures, petrels prefer to violate a course by starting from the softest points of the body, and normally, that means the anus. So when you see this overgrown graveyard pigeon in red face, it means it just got done tossing some dead elephant seal salad. The giant petrel's nauseating eating habits only make this next fact even worse. Because if you get too close to a nesting petrel, or worse, its chick, it'll projectile vomit whatever disrespect was marinating down in its trash chute of a stomach. Not only is it disgusting, the puke is so acidic it can actually eat away at the waterproof coating of feathers. But that's not why giant petrels are in this video. Now, it's because of the flying bullies of the southern seas with an obsession with penguin chicks. The southern giant petrel will survey a penguin colony and single out any chicks it can find, and then they'll proceed to snatch the chick in front of the parents who honestly don't make much of an effort in the first place. Then these flying predators will proceed to tear the defenseless chick apart and eat it alive, often while the parents can only watch. Sometimes they won't even attack. All giant petrels really need to do is sit and wait for one of the chicks to panic and make a break for it, a decision that guarantees his life won't get renewed for the next season. And unlike the Skua Mafia from Happy Feet, the giant petrel can have a wingspan of up to 7 feet, meaning this flying abortion can be a shack long. But they don't just go after penguins, and yes, I am censoring this for a reason. Giant petrels will also go after seabirds like the albatross and gannet, and their favorite method of soul eviction is by holding the bird underwater until it drowns. It's like a reverse baptism. They're aggressive, nasty, and they operate on a morality deficit, which makes them great at bullying penguins, but even better at World of Tanks. World of Tanks is a free-to-play game available on PC with over 100 million players already online. And you have a choice of over 600 different tanks, including artillery, destroyers, light, medium, and heavy. But if you don't value the mental health of others, EBR is the fastest way to obliterate the morale of anyone you play with. EBR is like if orcas were available as high-capacity assault vehicles. They're f***ing broken, and it breaks my soul. Pick your tank, rally your teammates, and turn your competition into past tense in over 40 different battle arenas. Strategy is advised, but my mother would have raised a liar if I sat here and told her I use it. I just go for violence. You can also earn experience and pimp out your tank. Download World of Tanks using the link in the description and use a promo code TANKMANIA and you'll get free 7 days access to a premium account, 250,000 in credit, the premium tank Excelsior, and 3 rental tanks for 10 battles each. Don't play this game if you have something to do in the morning. Because if you're anything like me, you'll get hooked and end up playing until 3 in the AM. Not like I get a lot of sleep anyway. Especially when I'm carrying the knowledge of the war crimes this flying Antichrist commits. Because going back to penguins, giant petrels will gang up on and bully the sick and injured to the point of exhaustion, and once the tuxedo duck can no longer defend itself, these homicidal sea chickens will tear it to pieces. Because a penguin's vital organs are protected by a layer of fat, the poor bird can be laying in sheer agony for over an hour, as merciless petrels tear chunks of its flesh out. And again, I'm sitting like this for a reason. It gets ugly. The only relief is when the penguin eventually retires from life due to loss of blood. These ice vultures will also follow fur seals on the hunt for penguins just so they can have a chance at the leftovers. And again, it really doesn't matter if it's dead or alive. Basically, giant petrels are what would happen if nature messed around and gave hyenas wings. And reminder, their wingspan can be 7 freaking feet long. But these flying coffins aren't the only birds with a slightly unethical meal prep. This Hall of Fame intimidator is the imposing golden eagle. Not only is it one of the largest birds of prey, they have a pair of lethal weapons for feet in the form of razor-sharp snare trap talons designed to grab and not let go. That and the fact that this eagle is known for griefing animals heavier than they are is why this apex assault weapon has such a high hit list of possible prey. As tough as they are, they do have a weakness. Like all birds, golden eagles have hollow bones, and a fracture to one of those bones, especially in the wings, is basically a death sentence. Which is why attacking an animal that can fight back like, say, a goat, could be bad for their health. Speaking of goats, that unnatural climbing ability helps them scale to heights where most predators aren't an issue. This isn't Photoshop. They're really like that. But of course, this murder Tweety isn't most predators. Apparently, nature gave golden eagles an understanding of physics because they'll attempt to latch onto the goat and manhandle it off a cliff to its death. And goats aren't pushovers. They can still critically injure the eagle on the way down, but golden eagles are strong enough to carry the goat and airdrop it straight to the afterlife. It's not just murder, it's premeditated. As brutal as it is, it's way more efficient than chasing and wrestling a goat into submission when you could just let the goat get clapped by gravity. Chasing a goat ain't easy. Just ask this guy. Also, deer and goats aren't the only victims here. Golden eagles will also carry a tortoise and airdrop it from hundreds of feet until the shell shatters. If the tortoise survives the first time, it's no big deal. The eagle will just pick it up and try again, because it's not like the shell jockey's going anywhere. Not only is it a bad time for a tortoise, it also might have ended a person. Because famous Greek playwright Aeschylus was allegedly turned into a Sunday prayer after a golden eagle airmailed a tortoise addressed right to the back of his head. Even if he wasn't a target, it's still manslaughter. And another body on this felony Tweety's rap sheet. And you can go ahead and add a welfare fraud charge because this bird might legitimately be one of the worst mothers out there. It all starts when a mother common cuckoo gets ready to lay her egg in a nest. Typical bird behavior. Except that's not her nest. The mother cuckoo will lay her egg in the nest of another bird like a reed warbler and then cover her tracks by stealing and destroying one of the originals. Which means the clueless warbler ends up incubating a future criminal. Because in what I can only describe as malicious design, the cuckoo egg will hatch days before the rest of the clutch does. Because even though the cuckoo chick is blind, featherless, and only a day old, it's somehow strong enough to lift an egg almost as big as itself and yeet it out of the nest and turn it into a Denny's breakfast special on the ground. And there's a good chance he does it right in front of the foster mother. But why would the warbler take care of a chick that not only isn't her blood, but actively destroyed her own? But that's easy. Gang violence. According to researchers, host parents that refused to feed the cuckoo chick ended up getting their home nest completely vandalized by the cuckoo mafia. And yes, I'm being 100% serious. And if the warbler recognizes the imposter egg and removes it before it can hatch, there's a good chance the mother cuckoo will stop by and butcher the entire nursery. I still can't get over this picture. So now the poor warbler is forced to take care of a chick that not only isn't hers, but was probably the one that Ted Bundy'd her actual children. Not to mention the cuckoo chicken grows several times larger than the host parent, meaning the mother bird literally breaks her back trying to feed it. It's honestly one of the biggest dick moves in nature, and get this, know the first 4 letters of a cuckoo's name? Yeah, that's where that term comes from. One of the most shameful genres out there was spawned by the sheer dickery of this bird. All this while the mother cuckoo sleeps at night knowing she trapped an innocent soul with a baby. It's like if Brittany Renner could fly. But what if Buffalo Bill had wings? Well, you'd probably get this demon right here. So at this point, there's 2 types of people. There's those that don't know what this is, and those that are wondering when this serial killer was going to make an appearance. For the former, this is a shrike. It's a type of passerine bird, making it related to blue jays and sparrows. It's also known as the butcher bird. And that is because this tiny bird has a disturbing habit of catching and murking its prey and impaling the corpse on thorns to store in its pantry. The shrike can keep the several bodies of its victims in storage for days before they actually eat them. They'll even purposely wait a few days after skewering the toxic lubber grasshopper so it'll naturally degrade and become safer to eat. There's also the fact that the shrike will typically turn its prey into past tense by grabbing the neck and violently shaking until the neck snaps. Don't let this cover fool you. The pages of this demon dove story are riddled with psychopath tendencies and homicide in the very first degree. But at least shrikes normally kill their prey before they impale it. Some birds choose to just swallow and let the rest work itself out. Pelicans are garbage disposals with frequent flyer miles. A pelican's diet consists of the usual fish, no surprise there, but its grocery list also includes amphibians, turtles, crustaceans, small mammals, not so small mammals, and other birds. Basically, if they think it can fit down its gullet, it's food, and you'll never guess what animal's behind me. Yeah. When it comes to pelicans, there's 2 schools of thought. There's the people that think pelicans are just goofy, big-billed sea ducks, and then there's those that have seen the video of a pelican swallowing a pigeon whole, with the bird visibly struggling as it was getting forced down its bottomless pit of a throat. When low on their normal food source or stressed, pelicans were all sorts of friendly, firing other birds like pigeons, seagulls, penguins, and ducks. And since pelicans don't have teeth, we can assume this pigeon's last moments were spent suffocating as it was being digested alive by corrosive stomach acid. Not a good way to go. I don't even like pigeons, and I feel bad. But it's not just other birds. Google pelican with some random animal, and you'll probably get one either attempting to or considering attempting to eat something that they honestly have no business even making the effort to swallow. A pelican swallowing a capybara defies all logic and common sense, but it won't stop this walking trash can from trying. A cat could probably open up a pelican like a Christmas present, but pelicans seem to think they exist in a vacuum with no consequences. When you do something like this, it shouldn't be a surprise when one attempts to Cardi be a human. You know, gag, choke, dangly thing back of the throat. I know that was a weird reference. If gluttony is a sin, then this feathery Lucifer has earned a D1 scholarship to the pits of hell. And judging from the eyes, they've already been there. And if you think I'm being unfair, when I was 7, a pelican nearly gouged my eyes out and blinded me, so yeah. Them. Pelicans barely value their own lives, so of course they could care less about their children. Oftentimes, a stronger pelican chick will bully and beat the weaker sibling to past tense, usually while the parent watches in sadistic approval. And sometimes the parents will straight up refuse to feed the weaker chick, instead letting it retire to starvation. Now, to be fair, a lot of birds do the exact same thing, but I've already made it clear I have a bias. While the Cape Gannet goes out hunting for fish, this murderous feather dumpster goes hunting for chicks. Pelicans will raid these nurseries while the parents are out to sea and devour the helpless gannet chicks in what has to be one of the most terrifying ways to die. Imagine this being the last thing you ever see. And just to add to it, because why stop now, some species will resort to cannibalism by gorging themselves with the children of their own species, because when it comes to their diet, if a pelican can, a pella will. You just can't trust a bird that's literally related to a Jurassic reject. And yes, this dinosaur isn't a stork, it's part of the pelican family. Hey, you remember how I made you feel bad for penguins because of the acts of terrorism this freeze-dried vulture commits? Yeah, that was on purpose. Penguins are far from innocent. In fact, they're as nasty as it gets. This little guy is an Adelie penguin, and they're honestly just formal frat boys. Just look how he's dressed. Your suit doesn't hide your sins. Adelie males will mate with literally anything. Adelie males have been seen inviting themselves onto injured females, other males, unsupervised chicks, and once again, I'm blocking this out for your mental health. Just because I have to see it doesn't mean you should. Honestly, if you have a pulse, you're its type. That wasn't even true, because once a scientist witnessed male Adelies without a partner attempt to mate with the ground. To completion, by the way.
The ground.
In one case, a dead penguin had been frozen over in a position that I can only assume was a little too similar to the mating posture. That was all the males needed to give the ice-chilled corpse the treatment. One scientist decided to take it even further by placing only the frozen disembodied head of a penguin on a rock just to see how low the males could go. Apparently low enough to forever traumatize the scientist and guarantee that his therapist never has to touch Storebrain. Once again, to completion. Penguins aren't the only things to resort to acts of the necro, but penguins insist on being really f***ing weird about it. Adelies will sleep with anything with a heartbeat, and even that's not a deal breaker. Like, this would legitimately be considered a sext to an Adelie. Even the emperor penguin isn't all that royal. Emperor penguins have to raise children in one of the worst area codes in the world. It's so bad that if an egg rolls onto the ground unprotected for less than a minute, the chick inside is already gone. Which means by the end of the brutal 4-month winter, there's a lot of penguin parents with an empty nest. But not only will some attempt to fill the void by kidnapping someone else's chick, it only takes a few days or even hours for the foster parent to get bored and leave the forcefully adopted chick to die. Either by starvation or worse, by getting violated by the flying booty warrior that is the giant petrel. You see how it all comes full circle? Because penguins invest so much energy into one baby, losing one can drive mothers to satisfy their maternal instincts by kidnapping. But of course, this also means that once the instinct wears off like post-acorn clarity, the mother basically murders the chick through sheer negligence. And there's only one good thing about this. Next time you see a leopard seal ordering Popeyes, you won't feel as bad. And just like this penguin, this video is now over. I write, record, and edit these videos all by myself. I'm not complaining, I basically chose this. But if you'd like to support this channel for some reason, my Patreon's gonna be in the description. Becoming a patron earns you access to TikTok and YouTube videos before I post them, and even exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. But once again, please don't feel pressure to give any money, only if you can afford it. Please feel pressure to subscribe though. It costs you nothing to hit that button, but not subbing might cost you your kidneys on the black market. Also follow me on Instagram so I can get verified and start DMing women for validation. There's videos and pictures and stuff, but honestly I just want that blue check. Like, that is my entire motivation for all of this. It's not about raising awareness or making you laugh, it's about validation from strangers online. That is my one-armed man. Alright, peace out. So a lot of y'all tagged me and wanted to know what that is. And honestly, I don't really know. Okay, that was kind of cap. It's a maned wolf and they're pretty common in Brazil and Argentina. But they're not wolves, they're not foxes, they're not even cross-dressing coyotes. They're kind of just their own thing, and they are really weird. Because even though they're technically related to wolves, most of their grocery list is just fruits and vegetables. Like that one dude that brings a veggie burger to a cookout. Now that I'm saying that out loud, they're basically the pandas of dogs. Also, they smell like Snoop Dogg's studio, to the point where police were called to a Dutch zoo to investigate what they thought was burning bush when it was actually distilled puppy's piss. Also, they straight up sound like an identity crisis. See what I mean when I say they're just weird as hell? They honestly look like what happens when God's on a deadline. On a serious note, in 2011, a Maine wolf got run over by a truck and left to die. But a Brazilian zoo managed to save her life by treating her with stem cells, making her the first wild animal to ever be treated with stem cell therapy, and eventually she was released back into the wild. Just thought that was cool. I swear nature just be making shit up, because what if I told you what you just saw was some weird prehistoric water-loving jungle rhino? Well, I wouldn't exactly be lying. That is a bear's taper and is basically the less clouded cousin of horses and rhinoceroses. Rhinoceroses? You might recognize them from Ice Age. Or it might remind you of Drowsy, because this Pokemon is actually based on a Malayan tapir. And that's because in Japanese mythology, the Malayan tapir would devour the nightmares of all the townsfolk to make sure everyone had good dreams. The Baird's tapir is the national animal of Belize, and even though it looks like a rough draft rhino, its nickname is actually the mountain cow. And they're way bigger than you think, and at up to 800 pounds with a horse's mouthpiece, they are 100% capable of picking you all the way up. There's also something about them that, I'm not proud that I know this. Basically, tapirs have a fifth leg, and they've been known to use that meat tripod as a back scratcher. Because guidelines has been on mine, I'm not gonna show you. Instead, here's ASMR you didn't know you needed. Some things just have Australia tattooed all over it. This little guy is a Stropherus gecko, and it's found in only one place in the world, and it's in the land down under. Now, it's not hell, it's Australia, but I wouldn't blame you for getting the two mixed up. To defend itself, this gecko shoots out a harmless but nasty smelling liquid at anyone that wants to find out just how far evolution went with this lizard. And even though I just said it was harmless, when mixed with ammonia it becomes flammable and a lot fucking less harmless. The reason is because these geckos often get picked off by birds. So these chameleons use that money shot to convince birds that they're not even worth the effort of trying to eat them. It's like Spider-Man, but instead of webs, it's a Febreze of liquid ass that probably tastes just as bad. I was considering making a jizzer joke, but it just didn't come to me. Unlike this gecko. So when I first talked about this, I thought it was a black sea hare, a giant species of sea slug, but it turns out the truth is somehow weirder than that. This crab is being eaten alive by a worm, specifically a marine flatworm, part of the group Pseudocerus. They're the ones that have those pee-pee sword fights where one tries to get the other pregnant by stabbing it. Yeah, those guys. The reason the flatworm's covering the crab is because it's trying to invert its digestive system so it can literally digest the crab from the outside. Or option 2, it'll spit digestive juices into the crab, wait for the crab to become a pre-digested paralyzed soup, and then slurp it through its mouth. Also, some flatworms will use poison to cripple their prey just so they can eat them alive. The poison some of them use is a toxin called tetrodotoxin. If that sounds familiar, it's the same toxin that makes the blue ring octopus and the fugu blowfish so dangerous. And by dangerous, I mean this octopus can turn 26 grown men into hashtags. And this blowfish can drop 30. Not points, but bodies. Moral of this video? Yeah, that crab is... These teeth belong to the world's scariest vegan. This is a gelada baboon, and even though its teeth looks like it should belong to a saber-toothed cat, they eat almost nothing but grass, and they'll spend all day grazing like cows. And they'll do this while rolling up in squads of up to 600. That is a gelada monkeys. And that joke is why I'm still single. Speaking of failed relationships, they cheat on each other like all the time. Normally, only the dominant male is allowed to mate, but sometimes the females will go behind his back and hook up with the lower-ranking monkeys, and they'll even suppress their usual mating noises just so they don't get caught. Because if they get caught, the male could turn the side piece into a hashtag. So yeah, they know what they're doing. They're also called bleeding heart monkeys because of that bright patch of skin on their chest. If you have a weak stomach, hide in the comments, you're not gonna like this one. Because when a female gelada's in heat, she'll start growing this weird-ass blister necklace that tells other males she's available. Hate it. I hate all of it. I somehow almost forgot to mention this, but they'll flip their lips and expose their teeth to intimidate a rival or someone who's just too close in general. And considering sometimes they'll form gangs and bully other animals like leopards, yeah, you don't want those problems. Now, what if I told you not only is this skull real, the animal it belonged to very well could have been your neighbor. If you live in North America or some parts of Asia, this thing could have made its home in your backyard. This is the headpiece of Metamynodon planiforms. It was a semi-aquatic unit of an animal related to the rhinoceroses of today. Basically, lock a hippo and a rhino in a hotel room together, and this disrespect to the natural order is what would have walked out. Metamynodon was estimated to grow to 13 feet long and break the scales at 4,000 pounds. Like hippos, this walking bus of an animal would have grazed on mostly grass. But they also would have used those tusks to run phase with each other in the evolutionary arms race for female validation. And also like hippos and crocodiles, Metamynodon's eyes were near the top of its head, meaning it could see you while being almost completely submerged underwater. And just like the homicide horse of today, Metamynodon would have been a fucking problem. But this swamp rhino got vaulted about 35 million years ago. Because even nature knows when to stop the gimmicks. Nah, it's just me, but check this out. This is one of the most endangered animals in the entire world, and there's not much time left for them. This is a vaquita, and scientists believe there can be less than 10 of them in existence. Just a little background, a vaquita is a type of porpoise, and a porpoise is just a Dollar Tree dolphin that no one seems to really know about. And this off-brand flipper exists in only one place on the entire planet. The only place in the world you can find it is in the Gulf of California and Baja California in Mexico. Even though it's related to literally the biggest animals in the world, at less than 5 feet long, the vaquita is the smallest of all living cetaceans, which is a group that includes blue whales. The biggest threat to this travel-sized dolphin is they keep getting caught in fishing gear, which causes them to drown. To show you how badly we hoed this Make-A-Wish whale, in 1997 there was believed to be something like 600 of them. That number dipped to 245 in 2008. Now there aren't enough in the world to run a game of full-court basketball. The worst part is they were first discovered in 1958, which means we managed to pack their entire up in only 60 years. The Mexican government banned fishing with gill nets, which was their biggest threat. There's also petitions like this to raise awareness. Link in bio. Link in bio. If we're being honest, it might just be up for them. On this episode of Animals That Were Never God's Favorite, squids have a donut-shaped brain with their esophagus running through it. The donut shape actually helps them link information that they receive between the two eyes. But it also means squids are forced to eat with small bites at a time. Because if a squid tries to swallow something too big, it can actually mess around and give itself severe brain damage. The hole in the brain isn't even that big, it's like less than half an inch, which means something like a Popeye's biscuit would give them an aneurysm. That is if it didn't past tense them instantly. Giant squids avoid getting flatlined by their food because they have a radula, which is basically a tongue with teeth. So if a giant squid tried to eat you, it would first tear you to shreds with that nightmare of a tongue before swallowing you. And only after grinding you into human dirt would the squid be able to pass you down his throat. Now nobody's perfect, but having to eat basically flavored sand for your entire life just so you don't accidentally factory reset yourself just seems like an intentional cue from people wanted me to react to this. So basically there's an animal draft and I have many thoughts. Most people choose between a good time and a long time, and Team 1 said f it and chose neither. You failed the assignment when the most intimidating animal on your roster is this. We love dogs, but if you only have one, it's not going to take you very far. Bison are cool, but since evolution them and put 2 of their lungs in one cavity, for an animal built like a tank, they're pretty easy to one-shot. Sea turtles are dope, but you picked an animal that can get folded by a Ziploc bag. Team 1, it's up for you. Team 2 used the 2nd overall pick on a steroid weasel. Now that tells me all I need to know. Made up for it with the crocodile and the Komodo dragon, and elk isn't exactly terrible, but your team does lack one very important thing. I got no type of speed. And notice how I didn't even acknowledge the koala. Because unless it's during the 10 minutes they're awake every day, the koala isn't going to be a factor. Even if it was, it wouldn't be good for much except spreading chlamydia to the other teams. Now we get into the real shit. Team 5, you started off strong by picking the largest land predator on the planet with the polar bear. I guess you ran out of to give because then you picked the African bullfrog and followed it up with a genetic disaster that is the liger. Technically, the liger is the biggest big cat on the planet, but it's also a walking medical bill that can suffer from arthritis, organ failure, and cancer. You wouldn't even have to kill the liger, time would do it for you. And you do get points for picking the animal with the highest recorded bite force at 3,700 pounds per square inch. It's kind of like getting hit with a prehistoric sledgehammer with teeth. Then you followed it up with an animal literally nicknamed Black Death in the Cape Buffalo. Not bad. But honestly, none of that even matters because Team 4 did y'all dirty. Team 3's tough, I am not denying that. But any team with the largest animal on land, the actual largest big cat because ligers have no business existing, and the psychopath of the sea is going 82-0. And if you disagree, elephants body hippos, a horse could kick a cat's where his lights out, a tiger would murk Kangaroo Jack. This is what orcas do to sharks. And the panda, I ain't gonna lie to you, he's just there for vibes. Well, basically it comes down to this. Nothing on land is f***ing with an elephant, nothing in water is checking an orca. Adding a tiger is just gravy. Team 4 got it. Here's a fun fact that will 100% make people question what you do in your free time. So you might not know this, but the peregrine falcon nearly became past tense in America, mostly because they were getting destroyed by the pesticides we were using. In the 70s, the number of falcon breeding pairs dipped from 4,000 all the way to 324. But they made a comeback, and you're gonna see why that was a pun. And one of the big reasons was thanks to the FFH, the Falcon hat. This hat was also a sperm collection device that falconers would wear to collect and artificially inseminate falcons. And yes, they would wear it on their head. But why, you're probably asking. Well, fun fact, when you hand raise a falcon as a chicken and it imprints on you, it grows up and ends up showing zero interest in other falcons, but all the interest in humans. So the only real option was to put on the hat, close their eyes, and question every life decision that led them down the path with the end game of getting sculpted by a bird of prey. And to make it even better, falcons have to be courted before they mate. So not only would these grown men have to put on the hats, they would also imitate the female falcon's chirp and even bow their head in a rocking motion the same way an interested female falcon would. All that so the falcon would be comfortable enough to turn the bucket hat into a bucket hat. These hats come in many different colors, which means of course so does the falcon. After receiving the falcon's baby batter, the falconer could use a syringe to remove it and then inseminate a female. As much of a meme this whole situation was, it actually helped the falcon population that was previously on life support. But it also means a man had to go home to his wife and children after a long day of being a professional falcon buddy. The more you know.
Wait for it. I can explain.
Once upon a time, I downloaded TikTok as a joke, and now I explain stuff like this for a living. Ain't that some shit? So when a lot of baby birds are still in the nest, instead of deucing all over the place, instead they'll dump into a white mucus membrane called a fecal sac. It's basically a built-in diaper for baby birds. And just like in the video, normally as soon as a chick is fed, it'll release a sac for the parent to deal with. Because being a parent literally means dealing with all kinds of shit. If the chick can't produce a sac on its own, then the mother will poke and prod around its cloaca to stimulate it into dropping its pamper pack. And the reason they do this is because 1, keeping all that nastiness in the sac keeps the nest clean. And number 2, the cleaner the nest is, the less likely it is that a predator finds it. Now the reason the mother eats it is because baby birds can't digest food completely, so they end up leaving a lot of nutrients in their poop. And since nature loves to recycle, oftentimes the parent, usually the mother, will eat the sac so the nutrients at least don't go to waste. So the more you pay attention, the more you realize birds are just really fucking weird like that. Normally by the time the chicks are ready to fly, they don't need a fecal sac anymore because their systems can handle all the food they normally eat. If I have to know this, so do you. Okay, honest question here, because I'm just curious. Why did y'all tag me so many times? Have we really gotten to that point? You see a pig with sperm wall, it's heavy enough to have their own gravity, and your first thought was that I needed to see it? Now, I don't know what's worse. The fact that y'all expect me to be able to explain this, or the fact that you're right and I can. Don't judge me for knowing this. This is a boar sus growth, and it produces more baby batter than any other animal alive. For reference, a human man can release about 100 million little swimmers in one round. But when this wild pig empties the clip, it can produce about 50 billion. It literally has sus in its name. That should tell you something. Basically, since male boars compete for females, the more baby batter one can produce, the more likely he's going to be the one that ends up knocking up the female. So to be able to hold more life juice, a male boar's balls will double in size during breeding season. To give themselves even more of an advantage, a pig's O, you know, big O? Yeah, for a pig it can last well over half an hour. In rare cases, a pig can experience 90 minutes of euphoria. Which means after years of character development, we now have pigs with family jewels big enough to pay property taxes for. Which is how a video that can make me feel pain in places I don't want to can exist. So let me ask y'all, are y'all glad y'all know this now? Like, did you really need me to tell you all this? Wanna know the saddest thing about this? I barely did any research. For some reason, I already knew most of this. And there is no safe way to explain why.
What the actual F $ hash is this?
Yeah, this shit's real. This is a hammerhead bat. You can find these roid bats seasoned all across Central and West Africa. I ain't even gonna hold you, they do not have the best side profile. In fact, if you remember pictures of a chupacabra that went viral a couple years ago, it was actually a hammerhead bat minding its own business. I can't even blame them because they have one of the most misleading skulls you'll ever see. But this freak of a bat is 100% harmless. Hammerhead bats eat almost nothing but fruits, and their favorites are figs, bananas, and mangoes. And when they do catch bodies, they're usually eating the insects you actually should worry about. And there's actually a reason they look like the face of a malpractice lawsuit. The males use that freakish nose job as a kind of loudspeaker to amplify this weird honking call that they make to attract females. This half of evolution is just finding creative ways to get laid. You wanna hear it? You can't hear it, but somewhere Batwoman just got turned on. Also, these bats low-key have social anxiety because during stressful events, they'll purposely isolate themselves from the group. It'd be like that. I read a comment that said they're disgustingly adorable, and yeah, I see it. Almost makes up for the fact that sometimes they attack and murk chickens, and they might be responsible for Ebola. No, I don't think I will explain it. I'm about to introduce you to your new nightmare. Meet every shark's paralysis demon, the false killer whale. It's actually a type of oceanic dolphin, and the biggest ones can grow to 20 feet long and weigh well over 4,000 pounds. Basically, they're dolphins that eat their Wheaties. This aquatic refrigerator usually eats fish and squid, but this waterproof demon will also murk other dolphins. They also do other things to dolphins. Because not only will false killer whales, let's call it tennis. Not only will they play tennis with dolphins of other species, they'll also participate in gay tennis matches. That's actually why you've probably never seen them in an aquarium, because when they're around other dolphins, they'll either fight or another F word that guidelines won't let me say. Also, apparently false killer whales have been known to roll up in squads of 500. Also, I was not kidding about the tennis thing, because when a female bottlenose and a male false killer whale play doubles, they can end up making a baby called a wolfin. Even though its name makes it sound like a whale-dolphin hybrid, they're both dolphins. On a wholesome note, this Dollar Tree orca is actually really friendly to people, and sometimes they'll approach humans and offer them fish that they already caught. Because they can form friendships with other species, they can often bond and create relationships with humans. Like a just friends relationship. Not whatever the God-fearing this was. But yeah, falsies are friendly. Even though they look like someone tried to recreate dolphins strictly from memory. While on LSD. So I just thought of something and I have no idea if this is true, so I need an expert to tell me if this is facts or not. You remember orcas, right? Of course you do.
I'm fixing to end it all here. I appreciate it. Hanging out.